Hello, it's Lynn this morning and
good morning everyone, it's Mike. Good morning.
We'll now read the Society News for Friday the 8th of March 2019. Tuesday the 12th of March. The swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Ryde. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the site for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group.
Wednesday the 13th of March. The weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this week from 10:30 a.m. There will also be our low vision drop-in between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. The book group will be meeting at Lord Louis Library on between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. We discuss the last month's book over tea and coffee and hand out the book for the next month. The books are available on CD or USB. Please contact Laura Jasper on 522205 for more information, or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
Thursday the 14th of March. Sue will be at the new monthly coffee morning at the Old Smithy coffee shop in Godshill between 10:30 a.m. and 11:45 a.m. Our coffee mornings are run by staff and volunteers from Site for Wight and are open to all. Refreshments, including delicious fresh cakes, are available to purchase direct from the coffee shop. The Thursday social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat. Then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Any other news? Sight loss awareness event. Laura Gouljar, Eye Clinic Liaison Officer at St Mary's Hospital, will be hosting a sight loss awareness event on Saturday the 23rd of March at 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the Riverside Centre. Entry is free and refreshments can be purchased. Confirmed attendees at the time of writing are Sight for Wight, Guide Dogs, Macular Society, International Glaucoma Association, Retina UK, ORCAM, RNIB, NHS Falls Team, and information from Esme's Umbrella and the Nystagmus Network. Chris Kane was the guest on Sunshine Radio on Tuesday the 5th of February, and listeners can hear the interview later in the programme. He was also on Vectus Radio with Maggie and Calvin Curry on Tuesday the 26th of February, and this can also be heard later in the programme.
Sight for Wight activities. A new piece of equipment that is now available is the In Your Pocket portable media device and smartphone. It is the simplest way for blind and partially sighted people to access the RNIB library and RNIB newsagent services, as well as making phone calls. In Your Pocket is a voice-controlled phone, streaming media player and vision assistant, designed specifically for people who are blind or have low vision. Sight for Wight has arranged to have a demo version and will have it available to try at the Low Vision Drop-In and Coffee Morning on Wednesday the 20th of March, 10 till 12 noon. The 5-day holiday to Llandudno. This will be at the Somerset Hotel, which enjoys an enviable seafront promenade location in the heart of Llandudno. The outward journey date is Wednesday the 16th of October, returning on Sunday the 20th of October. The cost is from £440 per person and includes local pickup, coach travel, ferry fare, single room accommodation, breakfast, dinner, evening entertainment, Sight for Wight sighted guides and insurance via Dacia's Holidays. Please note, all activities are subject to demand and availability of volunteers for supporting sighted escort guides. The closing date for expressions of interest is Monday, the 11th of March. Please contact Laura for more details. Email members@iwsb.org.uk or call on 522205.
This week's In Touch. Blind man at the forefront of science. How Dr. Damien Corrigan got to the top of his field of science, and should all blind roles be played by blind actors. Dr. Damien Corrigan wanted to be a medical doctor, and when that seemed out of his reach, he took another route to working to improve medical testing. He says the field of science is opening up for prospective visually impaired scientists. Comedian Chris McCausland and actor Chloe Clark debate whether it's a realistic assertion that all visually impaired roles on TV, in film and on stage should be played by partially sighted actors. The presenter is Peter Wight and the producer is Lee Cumutat.
Changes to Wednesday afternoon social activities from April 2019. Following the steadily dwindling number of members attending the current fortnightly Wednesday afternoon social activities at Millbrook House, we will be hosting the final session on the 20th of March, when entertainment will be provided by easy listening singer Hannah Pereira. From April 2019, we will be offering a new range of activities on a couple of Wednesdays each month, with the aim of appealing to a greater number of members. On the first Wednesday of each month, there is a sing-about session. This is a social singing activity run by Independent Arts. It can help to improve your memory, breathing, speech, movement and confidence. It is a great opportunity to meet new people and everyone is welcome. A variety of music is including traditional rounds and rhymes, songs from shows and music hall favourites, as well as popular music and rock and roll. Minibus transport is available, subject to demand and location. Details are as follows. Venue: St Mark's Church, Station Road, Wootton, PO 33 4QZ. And the start date is Wednesday the 3rd of April, and then every first Wednesday of the month. And the time is 2 till 4 p.m. The cost: the session is run by Independent Arts and is free, to include refreshments. However, voluntary donations are appreciated. The cost for the minibus, if required, is £2.
On the third Wednesday of each month, there is an additional swimming session at the West Wight swimming pool in Freshwater. The special care swim session is in the main pool only, but the temperature is raised to make it more comfortable for older and or less mobile people. It's a very friendly session with extra pool staff on hand, and newcomers are very welcome. If you're interested in joining this activity, then we will need to ask some questions about your swimming ability, general health, mobility and next of kin contact details. Minibus transport is available, subject to demand and location. Details are as follows. The venue is the West Wight Sports Centre, Mower Place, Freshwater, PO 409XH. The start date is Wednesday the 17th of April, then every third Wednesday of the month. The time is 12 noon till 1 p.m. The cost is £4.20 per persons to swim, plus an additional £2 for the use of the minibus if required.
Members are also reminded that on the second Wednesday of each month there is a book group that meets at Lord Louis Library, Newport. The group meets from 2 p.m. for about an hour. We discuss the last month's book over a cup of tea or coffee before handing out the book for the next month. Books are available on CD or USB stick. There is no charge for this group for visually impaired people. If you're interested in any of these activities, then please register by calling 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk. Please note that all activities are subject to demand and availability of volunteers for driving as required and supporting as sighted escort guides.
Following discussion with the regular members who have enjoyed Wednesday afternoon sessions over the past year or more, and especially for those who are less interested in more active pursuits, we can plan to arrange a series of afternoon tea outings at suitably accessible venues across the island, and will promote details of these in the near future. Of course, we very much welcome other ideas and suggestions for activities from members. Please contact us by telephone or email, or join one of the quarterly members' forums meetings with the CEO. We will always be happy to put together information about something new or different, and will run the activity if we have sufficient interest from our members and necessary support from our sighted guide volunteers and drivers. In the meantime, we very much expect that there will be something of a party atmosphere at our final Wednesday afternoon social at Millbrook House on the 20th of March, so encourage as many members to come as we can accommodate. Just let us know in advance if you are not one of the regular members of the session and plan to join us, so that we can cater accordingly.
And now we're going on to the county press. And the main headline is St Mary's slammed. The shortage of nurses and long waiting times in A&E. A shortage of nurses, lack of beds and long waiting times in A&E at cash-strapped St Mary's have been criticised by inspectors. Yesterday, Thursday, the Isle of Wight NHS Trust was plunged into special measures for financial reasons, and inspectors issued a warning notice to A&E at the already inadequate hospital. NHS Improvement announced the Trust had not been able to sufficiently explain the deterioration in funds, or show how the 13 million increase in debt would be addressed. Anne Eden, Regional Director for NHS Improvement and NHS England, said the current financial position at the Trust was not sustainable, and high-quality care and financial grip went hand in hand. The Care Quality Commission's CQC report said the Trust must improve the number of staff on duty and make sure patients were assessed in a timely manner in a designated area. During the inspection, a shortage of nurses meant the A&E department relied heavily on agency nurses, who did not always have specialist experience, and only 6 of 8 required nurses were present. This meant several aspects of patient care had not been completed. Inspectors witnessed a patient who needed the toilet trying to climb off the end of their trolley when there were no nurses to assist. Inspectors described the department as crowded and noted one patient had been in the hospital for 15 hours. In the waiting room, one patient was seen lying across the seats in obvious pain, and another became increasingly uncomfortable and tearful. Despite this, almost all staff spoke positively about working in the department, and several told inspectors morale had improved in recent months. The report said junior doctors felt well supported and the leadership team were energetic, cohesive and well motivated. Maggie Oldham, the chief executive of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, said it took very seriously the warning notice on where improvements were needed and would work with NHS Improvement to ensure clinical services were financially sustainable.
Cowsweek death was tragic accident. A keen and experienced sailor who was thrown from a sailing yacht during Cowsweek died as a result of an accident, an inquest heard on Wednesday. Wayne Rogers died at St Mary's Hospital on August the 10th, 2018, after strong winds caused the keel boat he was sailing to lean so far over he was thrown across the boat and into the waters off Osborne Bay. The inquest heard Mr Rogers, a 62-year-old retired accountant from Portsmouth, had been dragged along in the water after his foot became caught in the spinnaker sheet, the rope which runs through the sail, and was unable to get free. As Mr Rogers' foot was tied in the rope, his crewmates were unable to bring the spinnaker down or change the direction of travel. The court heard evidence from witnesses who said Mr Rogers' head was under the water and he was not struggling. A sailor from another boat jumped into the water, cut Mr Rogers free and gave mouth to mouth while in the water before they tried to lift him onto the vessel. The court heard only 7 minutes had passed between Mr Rogers falling into the sea and the RNLI arriving at the scene, at which point he was taken to Trinity Landing at Cowes, treated by paramedics and taken to hospital. Deputy Queen's Harbour Master for Portsmouth, Gideon Sherwood, presented his investigative report, which concluded Cowsweek had taken all the necessary steps and the incident was an accident. His report highlighted recommendations for Cowsweek, which included more staff to ensure the continued management of the safety communications, strict rules to ensure sailing crews had knives to hand, and defibrillators on the water. There was also a suggestion from both Mr Sherwood and Isle of Wight coroner Caroline Summeray that the dangers of using a continuous looped rope in spinnaker sails be addressed. The court heard this had already been taken on board by Cowsweek and the RYA. Mrs Summeray added that due to the finite number of ambulances on the island, Cowsweek should consider hiring a private ambulance for future events. The cause of death was drowning, and Mrs Summeray concluded the death was as a result of an accident. She praised the action of Mr Rogers' crew members and those who came to his assistance. She said, "I am astonished at how quickly this happened. He was having a great time and doing what he loved. It must have been very upsetting for everybody."
A holiday home burns as the owners eat next door. A holiday cottage was destroyed by fire as the owners ate their dinner next door, completely oblivious to the fact that it was burning down. Fire ripped through the property at Bunce Hill Farm, Porchfield, but thanks to a mystery caller who phoned for help, firefighters were able to stop the blaze from spreading to nearby buildings. Firefighters from across the island rushed to the scene shortly after 7 o'clock on Saturday, following the emergency call about a large property fire. The blaze had taken hold of one of 3 holiday cottages at the farm, and the buildings were subsequently destroyed. Luckily, the building was unoccupied and no one was hurt. Speaking at the scene, Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service Tactical Advisor Justin Harden said, "When we arrived there were flames coming through the roof. The whole roof has now gone. We prevented the fire from spreading to the 2 other holiday lets and brought it under control." The owner of the farm and the holiday cottages thanked the Mystery Porchfield resident who called the fire service. "We would like to thank the fire service for their prompt action in containing the fire which destroyed one of our holiday cottages and prevented it from spreading to the others," said the owner, who asked not to be named. "Particular thanks must go to the person who alerted the fire service. We don't know who it was. It must have been someone in the village. Without their quick thinking, it would have been worse. We were in the house, eating supper, with the curtains drawn about 40 yards away, and we didn't see anything. I didn't know anything about it until I looked out the window and saw smoke and flames. I thought it was a chimney fire, and then I realised it was one of the holiday cottages going up. The fire brigade was already there. An investigation will be carried out to determine the cause of the fire."
Northwood Homes Plan agreed. Controversial plans to build 66 homes in Northwood were approved by Isle of Wight councillors, despite objections from residents who said the green space between Newport and Northwood should not be developed. The application submitted by Harding Holdings was approved by the Isle of Wight Council's Planning Committee by 6 votes to 4. The decision had been deferred from the previous meeting after councillors asked officers to carry out a road safety audit and provide more information about access. Councillors had raised concerns about vehicle access to and from the busy road, but planning officers said the audit approved by Island Roads demonstrated it would be safe. The site originally had 2 access points, but one of them on the southern side has now been axed from the plans. Officers said the northern access worked better with the existing road network. Councillor Vanessa Churchman raised concerns about the location of the housing between Newport and Cowes. She said, "It's a ribbon development, and I'm not sure it's a ribbon development at its best." Officers said the application was within a key regeneration area and the development was within planning policy. The applicant now has outline permission to build the houses, but further detailed applications will be required before the work can start.
Cruise ships head for Cowes. 7 cruise ships, including some from the world's luxury lines, will visit Cowes Harbour this summer. The town's cruise season starts just ahead of Easter with a maiden call on April the 17th from Hanseatic Nature, one of Hapag-Lloyd's new expedition-class ships. From May to July, another 6 cruise ships, including regular visitor Europa, will head to Cowes. July will mark an exciting point in the harbour's development as the World, Seabourn Quest and Silver Wind, 3 ultra-luxury vessels, will call at Cowes. The World, the largest private residential ship on the planet, will be the first cruise ship to pay an overnight visit to Cowes on July the 12th and 13th. Harbour Master Captain Stuart McIntosh said, "We believe the Isle of Wight offers an ideal destination for luxury cruise operators looking to cater to current demand for experiential and personalised travel. We hope to see a continual development in cruise tourism."
The first female editor at the county press, and she's a Corkhead. The Isle of Wight County Press has appointed the first female editor. Emily Pearce, the current chief reporter, will take up the post at the beginning of April, succeeding Alan Marriott, who as County Press publisher will concentrate solely on the commercial side of the business. Emily grew up in Carisbrooke and attended Carisbrooke Primary Node Hill Middle and Carisbrooke High Schools before gaining a first-class degree in English Literature and Film Studies from Southampton University. She worked in marketing for clothing company Artigiano before joining the county press in 2008. Emily, aged 35, said, "As a born and bred islander, I grew up with the county press and care passionately about the Isle of Wight community. I'm incredibly proud to become the paper's first female editor in its 135-year history, and I believe the county press has a vital role to play in holding those in power to account." It's an exciting time to be taking the reins. Not only is the county press the country's best-selling local weekly newspaper, our online readership is growing all the time. We have a great team here at our Newport office, and I know I can count on their support as we look to the future. Alan said, "I am delighted to announce Emily as our new editor. I have seen her develop from a promising trainee to a dogged chief reporter who is never afraid to challenge those in authority. I am sure her digital and print journalism skills make her the ideal person to keep the county press, the biggest selling weekly paper in the country, moving forward." Alan also paid tribute to Rachel Rosewell, deputy editor, who is retiring. He said, "Rachel has been a fantastic journalist at the county press for nearly 30 years, and her creative abilities will be missed. She has been a tremendous deputy to me during my editorship, and I wish her the very best in the future."
Oliver, 6, saves mum. A 6-year-old boy has been hailed a little lifesaver after directing paramedics to his home after his mum went into anaphylactic shock. St Mary's RC Primary School pupil Oliver Haywood told the call handler where they lived and relayed messages to his mum, Kirsty Haywood, when she suffered a severe allergic reaction after eating some ice cream. Kirsty, who is allergic to nuts, eggs and seafood and even fruit, had injected herself with an EpiPen and dialed 999, and then handed the phone to Oliver, warning him she might fall unconscious. He was so brave and calm. "My throat had swollen up. I told him I might not be able to talk, and he would have to talk for me," said Liz Earle administrator Kirsty, 38. Kirsty's husband Adam, 39, was driving home from work. He carries out the maintenance at Ryde House Care Home. So she and Oliver were alone in the house at Marlborough Road, Ryde. When the paramedics arrived, they told Oliver he deserved a medal, said Kirsty. "You can die from anaphylactic shock. His actions and the EpiPen saved me. He is a little lifesaver. We are so proud of him." Following the incident on Tuesday evening, Kirsty spent the night at St Mary's Hospital, Newport, and is now recovering at home. "I've always had allergies, as well as asthma and eczema, so I know how to keep it under control. I've only had a few severe reactions, mostly when I was younger," said Kirsty. "It has worried Oliver, though. He hasn't wanted to leave my side since it happened. Bless him. He has been so brave. He really is amazing."
More cash paid out over roads PFI. The architect of the Isle of Wight's controversial highways PFI was paid £95,000 for 6 months' work, fixing the contract he put together. The Isle of Wight Council said last July J. Jayasundara of Jasmine Consulting would be paid £70,000 to explore cost-cutting measures within the contract. However, between July and December, Jasmine Consulting was paid £95,761 by the council. This includes a monthly payment of £750 to island letting agents Hose Road Dixon. This would pay for a 2 or 3 bedroom house on the Isle of Wight. A council spokesperson said it was normal practice to pay for accommodation costs for consultants when the work goes on for a long period of time. She said, "It is normal practice for consultants to charge agreed expenses, which can be over and above the fees for their work. Expenses can include accommodation, travel and other subsistent costs, the scope of which is agreed in advance." In December, the latest figures available, Jasmine Consulting was paid £31,425. In November, Mr. Jayasundara was not paid for any work, but the council continued to pay rent to Hose Roads Dixon. Independent Labour Councillor Jeff Brodie said, "Bringing back the man who designed the PFI contract in the first place to save the council money was the supreme irony. To learn not only are we paying him £70,000 for 6 months' work, but also housing him as a part of an additional £25,000 charge beggars belief." At Budget on Wednesday, we had a Conservative cabinet member telling us children had to take their share of cuts. Now we learn those cuts were partly to pay for a consultant's, no doubt, palatial pad. On average, Jasmine Consulting was paid between £10,000 and £18,000 a month. The Isle of Wight Council said it would review any expenses on a regular basis to ensure they represented value for money. A spokesperson said, "In the case of Jasmine Consultancy, the council is confident the services offered by this firm are proving to be valuable in the ongoing work with the Island Roads contact arrangements. The payment to Jasmine Consultancy is a part of the wider project to save an estimated £40 million through changes to the contract with Island Roads."
West Wight pubs to reopen soon. West Wight pubgoers have been given a boost with the confirmation that 2 establishments will reopen under new management in the next few weeks. The King's Head, Yarmouth, and the New Inn, Shalfleet, which have been closed for several months, have been taken over by 2 popular island chains. Character Inns, which owns the Bugle Coaching Inn, Yarmouth, Crab and Lobster, Bembridge, the Sun, Halverston, and the Crown Inn, Shorewell, among others, will add the King's Head to its portfolio. While Inns of Distinction, which has the Fishbourne Inn, the Boathouse, Seaview, the Spinnaker, Bembridge, and Artisan, Ryde, take on the New Inn. Rob Benwell, Director of Character Inns, said, "We are hoping to open around Friday, March the 29th. For the time being, we will give the King's Head some TLC with new furniture. Then in November, we will close it for a refurb and afterwards make it table service, as well as changing the menus to make them more specialised with island produce. Obviously, we will have 2 pubs in Yarmouth, but the King's Head will have a different concept to the Bugle. It's important we have 3 pubs open in the town." A familiar face back at the New Inn is Martin Bullock, who owned it for 22 years before leasing it out in 2017. The award-winning pub is currently undergoing a refurb, but Martin said he cannot give an opening date because he's still waiting for the gas to be reconnected. He said, hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. Most of the work is going on the decor and making sure that when we open, the service levels and style of food will be comparable to our other establishments. We have taken the lease back, which we would have preferred not to do at the time. But now we are working away, we're really excited about the project.
Upset over Wootton Road survey. A study to assess whether a pedestrian crossing is needed on the Wootton High Street should not have been done on a Sunday lunchtime, a Wootton resident has said. Island Roads undertook the survey outside the Sloop Inn, where pensioners Jacqueline Valvona was knocked over by a car last summer. She later died from her injuries. Island Roads said it picked the time when the pub, known for its Sunday carveries, was at its busiest. Local resident Mike Waddington, who is campaigning for a new crossing, said it was a quiet time of the week and the results would not reflect the average amount of pedestrians who use the road, which he claims is busiest during rush hours. He said pedestrians were assessed on a Sunday between midday and 2 p.m, and now I expect they will say the footfall in the area is not sufficient for a crossing. It's very frustrating. They should come back and do it between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on a weekday. I know I've said it before, but I am really worried that someone else will be killed there. Calls for a new crossing have been backed by Mrs. Valvona's family, and during her inquest in December, Isle of Wight coroner Caroline Summeray raised concerns about the number of elderly people who cross the road near the Sloop Inn rather than walk up the hill to the existing crossing. She wrote to Island Roads with her concerns, and senior accident investigator Sergeant Simon Morgan said he would support a new crossing in the area. A spokesperson from Island Roads told the county press, "We can confirm we have provided a report to the Isle of Wight coroner within the timescales requested. This confirmed Island Roads had undertaken a feasibility design and survey for a crossing following an instruction from the Isle of Wight Council. The survey considered vehicle and pedestrian movements in the locality and was undertaken at a time of the week, Sunday lunchtime, when data showed the Sloop Inn to be at its busiest. Island Roads will also be undertaking a further survey of vehicle and pedestrian movements during the busy summer period to enable the Council and Island Roads to determine whether there is a need for a crossing at this location." Liz Kingston, clerk to Wootton Bridge Parish Council, said the Parish Council had received the Island Roads report and noted its contents, and would await the results from their upcoming survey before they commented further.
A wilder Wight. Would you like a wilder Wight, where nature can further flourish? A free event is being held to discuss the benefits of encouraging more flora and fauna. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust is hosting the event at Key Arts on March the 28th from 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. It will involve a talk and panel discussion with local and national experts to discuss and shape a wilder future for the island. Trust Chair David Jordan will chair the discussion, and speakers will include Charlie Burrell and Derek Gow. Organisers said, "From red squirrels to the reddish-buff moth, the island offers refuge for many precious species." If you are involved with land on the island or have an interest in this issue, we would love you to join us as we discuss what a wilder Wight could and should look like. This event will play an important part in shaping our strategy for the next decade.
Man dies after falling ill on a bus. A Southern Vectis driver and passengers tried to save a man who fell ill on board a bus, but he later died in hospital. Police and paramedics were called to Ryde bus station shortly before 12:30 p.m. last Thursday after Trevor Jones suffered a medical episode on board a bus from Shanklin. Mr. Jones, aged 34, was taken to St Mary's Hospital by ambulance. Despite the efforts of paramedics and hospital staff, he later died. The cause of his death was not yet been established. Southern Vectis Operations Manager Simon Moy said, "Mr. Jones was taken ill while travelling with us on a number 2 bus between Shanklin and Ryde. Upon arrival at Ryde, Mr. Jones was unresponsive and the emergency services were called. Our driver, together with some passengers, followed the instructions of the telephone operator until the paramedics arrived on the scene. On behalf of Southern Vectis, I would like to offer my sincere condolences to Mr. Jones's friends and family.
Council staff awarded. The Stars of County Hall were celebrated during the Isle of Wight Council's annual Staff Appreciation Awards. In total, 129 nominations were received across all council services, from adult and children's social care to leisure, strategy and corporate services. John Metcalfe, Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight Council, said, "The awards ceremony highlighted everything that is great about our team and what they're doing to improve the lives of our communities. We are trying to build a culture in which people can have the courage to try new things, learn from mistakes, celebrate success, and make a real difference in the lives of our communities. I was immensely proud and privileged to listen to the citations celebrating how my colleagues from across the council are achieving great things for our island." The Team of the Year award went to the team that managed a potential major incident last March, which at one point threatened to leave up to 70,000 islanders without water over the weekend. Assistant Chief Executive Wendy Pereira said, "They didn't hesitate to don their winter coats and boots after 2 days of snow on the ground to help manage the incident. They employed not only their personal knowledge, training and skill sets, but also their values and common sense, bringing plenty to the party. Their ability and dynamism to act swiftly, deftly and against challenging, ever-changing deadlines and pressures was key to their success. They simply mucked in to get the job done, and done well." 18 people were recognised for their long service of 25 years to the council. 3 received acknowledgement having achieved 40 years of service, and a special tribute was made to Mary King for 50 years council service.
Grieving families left to wait as inquests delayed. NHS failings and a catalogue of woe saw the furious Isle of Wight coroner summon the island's health chief into court after several inquests were delayed, leaving grieving families waiting months for answers. Coroner Caroline Summeray called the Chief Executive of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, Maggie Oldham, to the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court on Tuesday and fined the Trust £500 for its failings. The summons followed a 15-page letter Mrs. Summeray sent to Mrs. Oldham, documenting her concerns at a string of hold-ups that had led to several inquests being delayed. Inquests are ideally opened and closed within 14 days, but many were taking around 20 weeks. Of the 13 inquests listed this week, only around 6 are likely to go ahead. Mrs. Summeray told Mrs. Oldham, "This is a really unhappy situation and I deeply regret that you attend before me again. It is embarrassing for you. I am coming under pressure from the Chief Coroner. He wants to know why my stats are so out. It is miserable. There has been a catalogue of woe. I wrote to you with steam coming out of my ears." Mrs. Summeray said she had been having to issue notices requiring compliance for every inquest, when they should only be used as a last resort. There was also an ongoing problem with numerous late notice serious incident applications. She said the Trust should notify her office within 24 hours of a death, but this wasn't happening. Families had been ringing the office after a few days to be told there was no record of the deceased. She also said doctors had sent through pretty silly causes of death, showing a fundamental lack of knowledge on what conditions caused what outcome. One key criticism was that important documents were coming through too late to be included in the evidence. In some cases, bodies had been cremated, and documents only came to light afterwards, when it was too late for further tests on the bodies. In the case of one drug-related death, documentation was emailed to the coroner so late it arrived after the inquest had been heard, and it was too late to do anything about it. Mrs. Summeray told of a widower who phoned the coroner's office almost daily trying to establish what was happening and when the inquest would be heard. The office had no update available as they were waiting paperwork from the trust. One inquest had to be adjourned this week due to several outstanding pieces of evidence, including the vital statement which pronounces life extinct. Mrs. Oldham said in response, "I am extremely disappointed and frustrated to find myself in this position, that my office is continuing letting your office down. I share your frustrations. We have to get a team that's equipped with the relevant skills. Sadly, we have not got the right level of skill." Mrs. Oldham offered to spend a day with the coroner and said she would make some immediate changes. She also pledged to be personally involved with very serious incident cases until the matter improved. A new inquest lead person is due to start work at the Trust on Monday.
The lions are the pride of the Isle of Wight Zoo. 2 former circus lions have arrived at the Isle of Wight Zoo. The new arrivals, Kumba and Vigo, arrived on the island in the early hours of Thursday. A zoo spokesperson has said the 5-year-old brothers arrived safe and sound and were already making a big impression. The spokesperson said, "Settling in incredibly quickly and almost looking as though they have been here for years, the 5-year-old lion brothers are an awe-inspiring sight. They tower above any of the big cats we already have here, and our first chore will have to be to enlarge the slides for them to get in and out of their bedrooms." The 2 lions have spent much of their lives in small compartments on a lorry let out only when forced to perform. Following their rescue and subsequent rehabilitation at a special centre in Spain, the 2 lion brothers just made a 1,300-mile journey by road, Eurotunnel and ferry to reach their forever home here with us at the Isle of Wight Zoo. Well, that's the end of the news. I'd like to say goodbye. It's from Lynn.
And on that level, we've been told to finish the article and say goodbye. So it's goodbye from Mike as well. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everyone. This is Barry.
And I'm Linda.
And we begin with a letter from Angela Hewitt from Whippingham, who writes, "Every decade brings a new initiative for nature and the environment. Agenda 21 Biodiversity Action Plan. And now it is regarding tree wild. Behind all of this, I suspect, a group of nature gurus bored with nature, desperate for a nugget of excitement in a subject that has little new to offer. These gurus have travelled the world, taken a photo, made a film, written their books. Now what? Oh, I know. Let's bring the past back to the future and reintroduce some extinct species. Let's re-wild Britain, including the Isle of Wight. I have recently read a beautiful little book by Simon Barnes, sports and nature commentator, called Re-Wild Yourself. It is an easy and lyrical read. It gives the layman simple advice on how to get close to nature safely, right down to buying waterproof trousers. It is a sad fact, and I speak from experience, having spent the past 14 years heavily involved in nature, that generally speaking most people are frightened of nature. It bites, it stings, it is dirty and muddy, and you might come out in a rash. When it comes to charity fundraising, nature is at the bottom of the list. Yet nature is now expected to save everyone from their mental health problems. It is not easy to eradicate the fear of nature when I hear a father telling his daughter to do as she is told or the spider will get her, and another father telling his children not to go near the water, to do some pond dipping because it is dirty. The last thing we naturalists should do is to add these to our fears. Rewilding Britain means the reintroduction of wolves and lynx, golden eagles, and, to the Isle of Wight, the white-tailed eagle. No matter how much the rewilders claim, they will not cause harm. Try telling that to the already frightened. Rewilders use the word persecution a great deal, and indeed to great effect. There are constant stories about the persecution of wildlife in Africa, and yet last week we heard on national news that Botswana is going to recommence the reissue of licences to cull elephants for pet food. Why? Because there are too many. But let's face it, there will never be too many elephants. There were millions of them before ivory hunters. The problem is too many people. Wolves, lynx and eagles were eradicated from Britain as pests because they were a threat to farmers producing food for an increasing population that had to be fed. In 1811, the population of the Isle of Wight was 22,000. Today it is 138,000 and growing, as it is throughout the UK. Rewilding Britain isn't about the animals. Incidentally, none of these species are at risk. On the red list, they are recorded as of least concern. Rewilding Britain is about nature gurus needing something to do. So I worry. Rewilding Britain with these animals makes me fear for the animals. I think you can see where I'm going with this discussion. As the wolves, lynx and eagles increase in population, they will become pests. And like the elephants of Botswana, English nature, the body that issues licences to destroy dormouse habitats, will be issuing licences to cull these innocent creatures, forced into a country where they are feared and didn't ask for it.
And now a letter from Nick Wilde, titled Assisted Dying. The controversial subject of assisted dying keeps coming up in the media, but there's not always a forum in which to discuss what we think. Every now and again, there is a case where a terminally ill person wishes to end their life and are prevented by the law. How should the law be changed? Dying Matters is the successor to the death cafes held since 2016 at God's Providence House Tea Rooms in Newport. The change of name has meant that we can be more focused on a specific subject. We began in February with discussion on funerals, those we had been to and what form we would like ours to take. There were 14 of us covering a range of ages. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, March the 13th, from 2:30 p.m. until 4 p.m. at the latest. There's no charge, but we hope you'll buy some refreshments to sustain you throughout the afternoon.
And from John Hay of Sandown, regarding the letter from Mr. Lewis about country styles, I feel obliged to clarify the position. The Isle of Wight Council Rights of Way section is responsible for all countryside furniture, while Island Roads has responsibility only for urban paths, which usually having no stiles on them. The basic principle for negotiating a fence, hedgerow, is laid down as gap, gate, stile, in that order. The Council has a duty to also consider the needs of the disabled and those of reduced mobility when being enacted in the Disability Discrimination Act and similar. We all need to consider others. On the island we are lucky to have a branch of the Ramblers, a national organisation promoting a large range of countryside activities, including access to the countryside for those of reduced mobility. To this end, a scheme, Donate a Gate, was introduced by the local Ramblers with the blessing of the Rights of Way section. This scheme allows members of the public to donate a sum of money to enable a kissing or pedestrian gate to replace a stile. In this manner, large areas of our beautiful island countryside are made accessible to those who cannot negotiate a stile. Where possible, a complete footpath is changed, but on occasions only a short stretch is achieved but allows some access. We have now reached the 200 mark, but in each case both the landowner and the rights of way have to be agreeable. Of course it would not be sensible to have both gate and stile. There would not be space, and nor would it be appropriate to expect both to be maintained. Path users who are unable to negotiate stiles, and many stiles are very awkward, are pleased they can now take country walks with some ease.
And from Richard Hollis of Cowes. I respond to the letter from Councillor Carl Love, County Press, 1st of March this year, in order to point out at least some of its inaccuracies. Councillor Love has clearly not been following the activities of our elected MP, Bob Seeley, who he accuses, quite wrongly, of only now objecting to the requirement of central government that we build annually large numbers of new houses on the island. When he was Isle of Wight councillor for Bryston, Bob Seeley vigorously opposed large-scale developments in his ward in order to protect our rural environment. In his election manifesto, he publicly opposed the demands of central government to build large numbers of houses on the island. In his maiden speech to the House of Commons in July 2017, Mr Seeley stressed how special our island was and the need to protect it. In November that year, he met the then Housing Minister to firmly put the case that the government's targets for new-built houses on the island was unsustainable, and that while he recognised the need for affordable housing, what the island needed was small-scale development. He repeated this in June 2018, arguing the proposal we should build 640 houses a year was wholly unrealistic. All of the above statements by Bob Seeley are a matter of public record if Councillor Love would care to do his homework. Following the spurious attempt in his letter to discredit the island's MP, Councillor Love then attacks the island's administration, suggesting the Isle of Wight Council's wish to build more housing to gain more revenue. He must surely realise that servicing the needs of an extra 1,200 to 2,400 more residents per annum, many of them probably in retirement since we have limited employment opportunities, would only add to a growing demand for resources which the additional revenue would nowhere near meet. I do suggest in future Councillor Love do his research before putting into print such ill-researched assertions, especially as he's recently announced his own ambitious political aspirations. I trust he will apologise to Bob Seeley.
And Malcolm should stand for office, from Leslie Abraham, Wootton Bridge. After reading Malcolm Mime's piece on a shake-up in British politics, I look forward to his piece on Steve Ross and Peter Bland and what they did or did not do for the island when they were MPs. It seems Malcolm Mime has a very low opinion of anyone who stands for public service. Does he know anyone in his local parish town council? Does he know where they meet? And has he been to a meeting? Does he know who his local councillor is? I very much doubt the answer is yes to any of the above. So I would suggest he throws off his anonymity and puts himself forward as a candidate for the All Mouth and Trousers Party at the next local elections and see how he does. He might find it very interesting. And before he asks, I have been a parish councillor.
Excellent analysis. A letter from A. Baker of Cowes. In response to L. Bell's letter in the County Press of the 1st of March, I found Emily Pearce's article, Why Shamima Begum Must Come Home, excellent. A brave, challenging, thought-provoking, outside-the-box analysis, looking beyond the easy condemnation of Shamima, whose past actions we cannot support in any way, but more importantly, constructively questioning her political journey, what we can learn from it, and the way forward. Forgetting about Shamima and her fate will not be a solution. Understanding how and why she ended in this situation through dialogue and analysis has to be more beneficial to try to stop others following suit. Prevent is the name given to education staff training on recognising the signs of radicalisation and to stop vulnerable youngsters from being drawn into terrorism. This is what we must invest and work on, not condemn, punish and throw away the key, washing our hands of future life threat
now we have looking back at 100 years ago, March the 8th, 1919. At the Isle of Wight court, a soldier from Arreton was charged with wife desertion. Private Harry Barnett had left for Canada 2 years previously, promising to return with money and a home set up for their family. He did not return, and the payments stopped for her and their children's upkeep. The court made a separation order and fined him. Also, Newport residents proposed that there should be a war memorial. The group said there was a growing feeling Newport should have a memorial of its own to commemorate the sacrifices made by the sons of the town. Those at the meeting decided a memorial hall or a cottage hospital would be an appropriate marker.
And 75 years ago, March the 4th, 1944, the world seemed small when two island brothers crossed paths in the Middle East. Sergeant E. Hales had been abroad for 3 years when his brother, Private L. Hales, was sent out there. While on duty, Sergeant Hales visited a camp, and to his surprise, his younger brother was there. And there was opposition to the re-election of the Isle of Wight's Council's chairman, Sir Godfrey Baring, for the 46th year. Some were against the principle of his repeated re-election. Mr. A.J. Harman, who voted against him, said he would have the same view if the chairman was an angel from heaven.
And 50 years ago, March the 8th, 1969, a party of 18 displaced children arrived on the island from Germany. The children waved excitedly from the deck of the ferry as it berthed at Ryde Pierhead. They stayed with foster families and were brought from Germany by the Isle of Wight Committee of International Help for Children. And an Isle of Wight man who left Ryde at the age of 12 to live in Canada revisited the town and reunited with his family after 59 years. Mr. S. Corney met a brother and sister who were babies when he last saw them and visited his old school in Oakfield.
And 25 years ago, March the 10th, 1994, the opening of Newport's Marks and Spencer's was nearly marred by tragedy when an electronic gate came off its runners and narrowly missed crushing a man. A full investigation was launched to discover the cause of the accident. The 25-year-old man, who was working at the time, miraculously escaped serious injury when the gate fell backwards and clipped his leg. Outraged Bryston residents tried to ban the Isle of Wight hunt from the village after about 20 hounds left a trail of damage when they ran amok through gardens. Villagers watched in terror as the pack rampaged across their properties. Councillor Jill Wareham said the incident was a disgrace and that there was no way the village could go through that again.
And 10 years ago, March 6, 2009, a family was left stunned after being quoted a jaw-dropping 1,112 50p for a return ferry trip to the mainland. Penny and Derek Caffin thought they must have made a mistake when White Links quoted a 4-figure sum for a return trip for a car, small trailer and 3 adults. A sizable hole was left in the roof of the old comical pub in Sandown after a fire. Fire crews from Sandown, Shanklin and Newport attended the blaze, which started in the chimney flue.
And now White Memories, entitled Funny Tales from a Past Life by Alan Stroud. In a past life I was a telephone engineer. To coin a phrase, I've met the public. I've been round their house. Back in the 1970s, on one of those cold, frosty mornings when you could see your breath on the air, I had to fix the phone of the Reverend Iton Jones in the vicarage at Queen's Road, Cowes. I parked outside and knocked on the door. It was opened by his housekeeper, who led me down a flight of stairs to the basement kitchen, where the elderly and jovial Rev was sat at the table in braces and dog collar, vigorously tucking into his breakfast a pair of kippers. The Rev was a nice old chap, but a bit of a chatterbox, and in between scoffing his kippers, he talked pretty well non-stop while I repaired the phone. When I finished and went to leave, he got up and followed me, still in full flow. He led the way up the stairs, past engravings hanging on the walls and stopping at each one to talk about it. It took 10 long minutes to reach the top of the stairs, where I opened the street door, thinking I was free. But I fear the Rev wasn't done yet, and he followed me to the back of the van, still nattering, while I put my tools away. I turned to face him, thinking I was never going to get away, when suddenly it happened. He coughed, and a lump of something flew from his mouth. It sailed through the air and landed on my shoulder. Straining to see out of the corner of my eye, I could see the UFO. It was a lump of warm, chewed kipper, which lay steaming on my shoulder for a brief moment in the cold, frosty air. The Rev could see it too.
Right, well, mustn't hold you up any longer. And he scurried indoors, leaving me to shake his fishy friend off. I have never looked a Kipper in the eyes since. I got called out to the race results centre in Bath Road one evening during Cows Week. In the foyer was an elderly, very upper-class lady who spoke in a very high-pitched, jolly hockey sticks voice. I asked her where the faulty phone was, but she didn't know. She led me from room to room to find it, and I checked each phone as we went. Eventually we came to a room with a man in. He was squatting on the floor, studying sheets of paper spread out in front of him. He had a telephone pressed to his ear, and in an Australian accent spoke excitedly. It was perfect weather on Solent as the yachts lined up. I could see our boys there, quite obviously oblivious to the signs that something was going on. Mrs. Squeaky Voice barked loudly, "Is this telephone working correctly?" He completely ignored her and carried on reading what was obviously a script. She tried again. "Is this phone working properly? Only I've got the telephone man here who's looking for a faulty instrument."
Again, he didn't stop talking, but this time he showed great displeasure by waving his hand violently at her, motioning for her to be quiet and go away. Anyone else would have got the message, but Mrs. Squeaky Voice was made of sterner stuff. She squawked at him a third time in a voice that could shatter glass. "Can you tell me, please, is this instrument working?" He knew when he was beaten. He stopped talking, glared darkly at her, and said, very slowly and precisely in a controlled voice, "I am in the middle of a live broadcast on Australian National Radio. There is nothing wrong with this phone." Quite unfazed at this revelation, she boomed in a foghorn voice, "Oh, right you are then. Must be another one. OK, we'll leave you to it then," and swept out of the room. The man rolled his eyes at me and spoke into the phone. Now, where were we? A wonderful moment.
And finally, a story which my granddaughter Leah never tires of hearing. I went to a very posh house in the yachting area of Cowes one day, all thick carpets and antiques. The owner was a man with an equally posh, cultured voice, and he was not alone. With him in the room was a huge Great Dane, as big as a pony. He was a soppy, friendly thing, and lolloped over to see me as I knelt down to work on the phone and decided to use me as a scratching post. He leaned against me, his shoulder against mine, and very slowly drew the entire length of his body past me, and then, as his rear end passed within inches of my face, he broke wind quite violently. Now, I knew you worked your way inwards with the cutlery when you had a posh 5-course meal, but I wasn't quite sure what the etiquette was when a dog blew off at you. I was still pondering the point, reflecting that it brought a new meaning to the phrase "feeling the wind in your face," when the man broke the silence by purring in his lovely dark brown voice, "Bruce, you dirty bugger."
And now, my view from Catherine James. It's entitled, "Keep Planting It and They Will Come." We can all pinpoint a moment when our lives would never be the same again. Perhaps the birth of a child, meeting an idol, or the first time you ate an olive and liked it. For me, looking at a bluebottle fly under a microscope was a transformative occasion. 2008, my entomologist boyfriend and I went on a course to learn how to identify diptera flies. I had an amateur interest in hoverflies, and his primary invertebrate passion is spiders. So, being the nerds that we are, we thought it would be a fun and educational holiday. For too long, flies and basically any insect that isn't a bee have been seen as a nuisance for lots of people, particularly horticulturalists and farmers. Wasps and ants, admittedly the bane of many a picnic, are summarily destroyed along with beetles, flies and other arthropods. It's true that folks like butterflies and often moths, but not hungry caterpillars and moth larvae, which are, of course, Lepidoptera in a sort of voracious sausage form. But invertebrates are an essential part of life on Earth. As we head towards a shocking extinction event, which has already seen 80% of biomass of insects disappear over the last 25 to 30 years, we need to encourage and nurture, nay, love these mini beasts. Humans cannot survive without them. On the fly identification course, lecturer Roger Morris described the different stages of a fly's life, from its humble beginnings as an egg, before hatching into a greedy maggot, followed by time in its self-constructed puparium, which, Roger enthused, is where the magic happens. Inside its hard case, the maggot degenerates into a sort of soup and jiggles about to metamorphosize it into a fly. It's quite mind-blowing. These two creatures have distinct phases, one pretty much just a chomping mouth, till it becomes unrecognisable from earlier forms to emerge as an aerobatic marvel. I peered open-mouthed through a lens at my specimen's stabilising Holters, club-shaped organs which were used like gyroscopes to help steer the fly sharply through the sky as it buzzed about looking for plants to pollinate, poo to eat, and dead things to tidy up. For decades we've had giant pandas shoved down our throats as a symbol of endangered wildlife, yet mini-beasts have been left to fight their own battles against pollution, overdevelopment, human indifference and pesticides. Yes, you with the slug pellets, I'm talking to you. This finger isn't just pointed at agricultural poisoners. The Isle of Wight used to be known as the Garden Isle, but can it still lay claim to that title? Your neighbour, who replaced their boundary hedge with a sterile fence, is responsible for the destruction of habitat. That forlorn lawn with nothing but a broken trampoline could, with a bit of effort, be a wildlife haven. I, for one, am going to refresh my dusty window boxes with insect-friendly flowers. Let's all do a tiny bit for our littlest allies. Surely it can't be too late.
Now we have Jim Gibbons on the council tax precept. Taxes my brain. Ryde Town charges a precept for community tax. The attached graph shows the amount Ryde has charged for each Band D property since then, plus that for next year. Those amounts are, in rounded up pounds over the past 11 years, 23, 36, 37, 38, 49, 64, 83, 94, 115 and 137. To someone of my interests, the curious thing is how smooth the increase has been. The first 2 years had total precepts of £200,000 round figures until the council had more details to go on. Thereafter, apart from a slight bump in year 8, 2015-16, the amounts are so regular the amateur mathematician in me was tempted to find a formula, treating 2009/10 as a year. My solution is Band D charge for years is 20 by XXX IO663, which is a pretty good fit, but you may be able to do better. Let me know. Having done those I was led to extrapolate to forecast of the succeeding year. Extrapolation is always risky, indeed foolish business, and I wouldn't bet money on it. But my forecast for that year is 20 plus, etc., etc. I'll let you know next year how I get on. Remind me. However, most people, including me with my other half, would just look at the graph and shudder. Much of it, of course, is due to liabilities being transferred from county to town. I suspect that some of it is caused by Ryde's engagingly ingenuous habit of asking people to nominate good causes for which they can confiscate more of our money. This brings to mind the forgotten man to whom I have alluded before. W.G. Sumner, in a lecture, said, I shorten it slightly, it is a common experience that A feels that X is suffering unduly. A talks it all over with B, and they decide to help. They get a law passed to help the unfortunate X, so everyone is happy, yes? No, we have forgotten C. C is the forgotten man. C is the great mass of people who have no say in the matter, the people who pay. Here is an easier problem to tax your brains. Suppose you are looking at a newspaper with 100 pages, but no unnumbered or differently numbered sections. All pages are in the one numbered sequence. In your mind, find page 83, which is in the second half of the paper. Page 84 is, of course, on the back of it. Got it? Now pull that whole sheet out, bringing with it a sheet from the first half of the paper. The question is, what are the page numbers on the left-hand sheet? What is the general rule in terms of the total pages and the specified page number? Last month's quote, when you go home, ... was by John Maxwell Edmonds. But who wrote, in real life, I assure you, there's no such thing as algebra.
And now for local news from the central area of the Isle of Wight, entitled Bags of Help for Vectis Radio. Tesco shoppers have been urged to support Vectis Radio's funding bid. The community radio station based at Newport's Riverside Centre is in the running to receive up to £4,000 for its 4PS training school to teach young people radio presenting and sound engineering skills. The cash is raised from the sale of carrier bags. Tesco shoppers will be able to vote for Vectis Radio as part of the supermarket's Bags of Help scheme. Station manager Ian Mack said, community organisations always need bags of help, and our radio school is no different. We exist to serve the IW community, and we are proud to be one of the organisations in the Tesco scheme this month. Every penny we raise goes straight back into supporting our radio school, and we know it makes such a difference to the lives and futures of the young people who join.
Here we have some new area news, beginning with West Wight. Funds for slipway appeal. A record £1,460 was raised by Freshwater Independent Lifeboat following a fundraising and education day out the co-op in Afton Road. Children were able to meet the crew, dress up and have pictures taken in the lifeboat and on the rescue jet ski outside the store. Chief fundraiser Rod Adams said, "It was an amazing day, and thanks to the fantastic efforts of volunteers and crew alike, we raised a total of £1,460 for our funds, a record for a co-op day. Working with the co-op for our fundraising and educational days is a very important part of our year. Following the day, it looks also as though we have picked up 2 new shop volunteers, and I think at least 1 prospective new crew member. The money will go towards our fundraising to rebuild our lifeboat slip into Freshwater Bay, which will not only shave minutes off launch time, but also reduce the risk to our crew members during severe weather.
And now, a charity car wash. Firefighters held a charity car wash to raise money for 2 good causes. The event was held at Newport Fire Station and was held in memory of Elenia Morris, who died in November at the age of 18. The charity car wash raised money for the Teenage Cancer Trust's Teenage and Young Adult Ward at Southampton General Hospital, where many teenage cancer patients from the island are treated, and the Firefighters Charity.
Arty youngsters. Castles, slides, flowers and museums. That's what children would like to see in the West Wight. Youngsters enjoyed a craft day at Freshwater Library where, with the help of Davina Smith, they helped create a colourful mural on the theme of what you'd like to see in the West Wight. Among the items they painted were castles, slides, flowers, museums and parks. The session was arranged by Friends of Freshwater Library, with Davina offering her time and materials free of charge. FL spokesperson said, "It is because of the generosity of supporters like Davina and the tremendous support we get from our film nights that we are able to host these free events for the community."
And now, North Wight area news. Group's 10th anniversary. Toddlers and parents gathered in Cowes during the February half-term to celebrate their group's 10th anniversary. As the Tuesday toddler group held at Cowes Baptist Church had run successfully for a decade, the group decided to run a half-term celebration for current and former parents and children. Rex Goldsmith from the church said, "Everyone had a great time and the children and adults were entertained by Huxley, the brilliant local magician. It was very well attended by children of all ages, lots who had attended the toddler club but have now started school. Tuesday Toddlers runs every term, Tuesday mornings from 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. with children's crafts, singing, toys and reception."
Students at Ryde Academy were given the chance to see science in action when the Royal Institution staged its Bringing Science to Life show. During the day, Years 7 and 8 students learnt about food and digestion through practical and explosive demonstrations. Dan, the presenter, set fire to food to explain energy and used a digestion suit to show the journey food takes through our bodies. In the afternoon, the community, parents and students joined the show. Mrs. Sarah Allen from Science Department said, "It was fantastic seeing teachers, parents and students enjoy and engage with science. We will definitely be having them back again next year." One student said she thought the food explosion was amazing, and others said they were keen to learn more.
Going back to the North Wight area, Pickle Wars raises £7,200. The annual Isle of Wight Pickle Wars, which took place at the Woodvale Hospital in Gurnard in January, raised £7,200 for Children's Liver Disease Foundation. Terry Ashdown, who started the pickled onion making contest 18 years ago, said, "We enjoyed tremendous support from the community and businesses around Cowes. I have to give special mention to John and Paula Dedman, my hosts at the Woodvale, and Kev Parkin, the manager, who always goes beyond the call of duty to make the Pickle Wars the success it has become." The fundraising total means a lot to Terry, as CLD Foundation is a charity close to his heart. My grandson, Daniel, was born with a rare liver disease, and it was at that point that we decided to turn our fun competition into a fundraiser. He is doing really well at the moment, but childhood liver disease is a lifelong condition.
Naomi House Cash, customers and staff at Ryde's Co-op have raised more than £3,400 for Children's Hospice Naomi House this year. Fundraising missions throughout the year, from tombolas and collection buckets to fancy dress days, have resulted in the charity receiving a £3,485 cheque from Co-op staff. Margaret Bryan, charity champion and checkout operator at the Anglesey Street Co-op, said the store had raised more than £19,000 in the 15 years it had supported the charity. We do all sorts to raise the funds. We've dressed up in our pyjamas as Centurions, and all in different colours. This year, me and a colleague are doing a wind walk. That's when you get tied to an aeroplane. And now that's it for today. I hope you found the news interesting.
And have a lovely weekend. From Linda.
From Barry.
Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, the heart of the island's community.
You're listening to Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, and of course online. And who have we got now?
We have the lovely Chris Kane from Sight for Wight with his insight for Wight.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good. Nice to be back. It's been a while.
Yes, you sent a substitute last night.
I did, yes. It was the lovely Laura, wasn't it?
It was the lovely Laura.
She
was very entertaining and very interesting.
Yes.
So you've got big shoes to fill now.
I know, yes. She's a tough act to follow, I have to say.
So what's been going on up there in Carrisbrook then?
Well, generally speaking, we've just had our AGM this morning.
Oh, right.
Hence
that's why
the smart shirt.
A little smart.
Instead of the usual stuff you turn up in.
What are you saying?
Oh.
He's so rude, Maggie.
I know.
Yes. So that went very well this morning.
Good.
So, literally fresh from that, I've hopped over here and see you guys. It's because it's February. It's nearly March, isn't it?
It is.
March at the end of the week.
Yes.
So the first is on Friday.
It is, and that's when you said St David's.
St David's Day. Yes.
Yes. Well, I hope the weather stays nice.
We'll see. It's not looking great, but we'll see.
Oh, isn't it?
No, but they could have got it wrong. They often do.
Oh, okay.
So you've been doing all the usual stuff then, haven't you?
Yeah, all the usual stuff. I mean, a lot of the things we got on at the moment. Obviously, I've talked a lot about the big events, the story writing competitions and etc.
Yep.
But we also have our sort of day-to-day stuff that goes on, which I just wanted to go over a little bit with you guys.
Great,
yes, all right.
Go for it.
So we'll start on a Tuesday. We'll start Tuesday.
What happened to Mondays?
Monday, we don't have anything going on a Monday.
Right.
No.
So
that's Chris's day off. He doesn't
Everyone's
do anything
hung over from Sunday.
No, Monday. I mean, we're still there. Well, I'm there.
Of course you are. You're there all the time.
Myself and Laura, we are the full-time employees, so we're there Monday to Friday. But activity-wise, we don't have anything going on a Monday, so we get a chance to catch up with our paperwork and admin and all that kind of thing. But tonight we have swimming.
Ooh.
So we have Tuesday every Tuesday. Every Tuesday we have swimming.
Where do you hold that?
That's over at in Ryde at the is it the waterfront?
I know the one you mean. You're the one on the seafront.
Yeah,
then.
that's the one.
Okay,
there. So that's always very popular. So that's every Tuesday.
Right. What time does that start?
That starts at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
No. You see, I didn't know that you did that. That's news to me.
We
so do you go with your clients? Or?
We have members. Yeah, we have members.
My members. I beg your pardon.
So we have a minibus that takes the members. So obviously, because the minibus will only hold 11 people, so we can only take 11 people.
Okay, that's enough for a team, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But it's very popular, and the staff at the swimming pool are great.
That's good.
That's good.
And our members really enjoy it.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
Well, it's good exercise. Good to get out and do something different.
Yeah, it's great exercise. So in fact, I love swimming. I haven't been for years myself.
It's not my favourite thing, but I know people do love it.
As long as the water's warm, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah. On a Wednesday, every Wednesday we have a coffee morning.
All right.
So anyone can come along to that. So that's always, and also we have a low vision twin day.
Is there cake?
There's cake.
Don't tell Kitty, she'll be there.
That's several thousand people going, there's cake?
Oh, yeah, there's always cake. Tea,
you might
coffee.
get inundated with people who want cake.
Yes, yeah.
So that's Wednesday, but what time does that start?
It starts from 10:30.
10:30.
And also that we sort of tie that in with a low vision drop-in day. So
right.
basically the lovely Laura is there, and anyone that has any questions about some of our low vision aids, she's there to answer questions, whether it's on magnifiers, anything really.
Yeah.
So we tie that in. So that's quite popular.
Yeah.
Then we have a Wednesday social group, which is once a fortnight.
Right.
That starts at 2 o'clock. And actually, I'm delighted to say we've got the lovely Gary Harbour from Isle of Wight Zoo coming back.
Oh, right.
So that's next Wednesday. Last time he came to see us, he brought along, we had a snake, we had a tenrek, we had a tortoise.
A
tenrek. It's like a little hedgehog, apparently. See, I learned, I didn't know what a tenrek was.
A tortoise.
Chicken. and a cockroach.
All right, okay.
As you do.
As you do.
I'm not sure having a cockroach near a snake is necessarily a good
We
idea.
did keep them apart.
Yes. Yes, 'cause I think,
Until the end.
I think a snake would look at that and go, I can eat that.
So Gary's coming back
Dinner.
next Wednesday. I don't think he's bringing so many animals, but he's got a few surprises for us. So
Might have a tiger.
he might have it. Yes.
Yes, on a piece of
Well,
string.
I hope not, because I'm picking him up
Oh, okay, yeah.
With the tiger.
with the tiger. Yeah. So I'll have to keep my eye on the tiger.
Oh, that's good. So
Eye on
that-
the tiger.
see what I
It sounds like
Yeah.
these things are interesting and well attended.
These very much so. I mean, Gary's very likeable, and he gets on great with our members. And
That's good.
He's able to give information across in a really basic way that
Yeah.
it's fun, it's informal, and you remember what he
That's
said.
good.
Yeah. So that's Wednesday. How are we
Yeah.
doing? Do we need a break yet, or do I need to?
No,
can I-
Well,
Carry on.
we can do one more and then we'll go into some music at the top of the hour.
Okay, well, Thursday then is our Thursday social group, and that is every Thursday.
Yeah.
And that's from 10. That starts at 10:30, and again, anyone can come along, and it's just for people. We used to call it our knit and natter
All right.
group, but that was a long time ago. So now
That kind of narrows it down a bit, doesn't it?
it does a little bit.
So they don't have to knit,
They-
they can still natter.
They can do a lot of nattering, but they don't have to knit.
Good.
Okay.
So yeah, and again, anyone can come along and chat and join in, and it's just a little bit of fun. And
Lovely.
people get to socialise.
Okay, well, we'll take a bit of Rihanna up to the news, and after the news, we'll talk about what happens on Fridays and what else you do up there
If
at
anything.
Millbrook House, because
Yeah.
quite a bit goes on up there. And we'll see you after that.
Yes.
We've still got Chris Kane here from the Sight for Wight organisation, up the
We
road in
do.
Carisbrook, next door to the vets, basically, we had in the other week.
Yes. Yes, handy
And-
for me, for my cat.
I think
Yeah.
it's very strange they don't come in together. So I think he must be a vet when he's not.
It could
think?
be, yes, he moonlights as a vet.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got as far as doing Thursday.
Yes.
And what do you do on Fridays up at Sight for Wight?
Well, Friday is activity-wise. We have on the last Friday of every month, we have our Striders group. So there's a clue in the title there.
They go walking.
They go walking,
Aha.
but it's more of a stride rather than a stroll.
Right.
Okay, so it's...
We also have a strollers.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
okay.
See
Yeah.
where I'm
I
going
see
with
you going with that,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And the strollers is on the second Tuesday of the month. So
Ah, right.
if you like walking, but you know not too much, then the strollers is for
Yeah.
You
you.
go for a stroll.
If you like a pace,
Yeah.
then you go with the
Right,
striders.
okay, and
Wow.
these are all guided walks of
Yes,
some
they are,
kind.
yes,
Yes,
always
okay.
guided.
There's a lot
Guides.
going on then. Isn't
It's
there?
yeah, and the walks are very popular because at the end they'll have a lunch afterwards. So it's quite a social, not just a.
Is there cake?
There's probably cake, but there's definitely food. Yeah,
Yes, well, I say walking can be a very good social event
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the Isle of Wight Walking Festival have a speed dating walk thing.
They
don't
do,
they?
yes.
But yeah, I'm not suggesting that's what you do, but yeah, that's good. So those are things that people of all abilities can join
yes,
in.
yeah,
Then.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It is. We've also on a Friday. Also, we've got our talking news, where
Yes.
Yep.
that's our really slick operation, where we have volunteers come in to read. They select articles from the county press.
hmm
Then they are then read by again
Yep.
some more volunteers, and it's all recorded, and it goes out the same day. So
Yep.
Right, so they have it by Saturday morning,
they
basically.
have it by Saturday morning on a memory stick.
Yeah.
Job done.
So it's
Wow.
what's in the county press plus information about the society as well.
Yes,
isn't it, I believe?
absolutely. We did have a problem with last week's
Oh.
county press because it was
bit late.
because of the fog.
Yes.
Oh, it was late.
So
yeah.
we had to do it online. So we selected articles from the online county
You
press.
didn't make
Ah.
it up.
We
then?
didn't make it up. No.
No. Yeah. Chris Kane wins cat prize. Yeah.
Yeah. He's found the cat food for his cat.
Yes.
So that was an interesting.
Well, but it shows initiative, doesn't it? So we'll
Yeah.
do it online if we
Yeah.
can't do it.
It
And I know the county press support you in using their news for
Yes.
that purpose.
Yeah.
They don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it. So I'm sure they would have a problem with
It's
it being
brilliant.
online.
Yeah.
yeah, that was good. A couple of things coming up.
Oh.
Go
I
on,
could
yeah.
say.
Oh, yes.
This Friday, we have an alpacas guided tour.
Oh.
Oh, no, you're going to love that.
At the West White Alpacas.
Yes, yeah, over at Wellow.
Yes,
Yes.
Say hi to Neil there for us. We
Oh,
know him
okay.
quite well. And watch out for the pizzas. They are spectacular.
Ah, yes, we were talking
If
about
you
this
like
earlier,
pizza,
weren't we?
you'll
Yes.
love theirs.
So are you going for a walk with alpacas? Or
It's just really, I think, just a petting session.
Oh,
okay.
And a little.
because they do walks with alpacas down there. So I was-
okay.
You can
yeah,
go
but-
wandering off with them.
Can you?
But you have to bring them back.
You have to. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You can't just take them
Well,
home.
that's good.
No.
So you're going to take a bunch of your
our members
around there and show them the place and explain what's going on.
Yes, I'm only there briefly just to take some video footage. And, but it'll be nice. I just hope the weather's going to be nice.
Lambs and goats and piggies.
Oh, have they?
All sorts and llamas.
I'll probably stay away from the llamas.
Well, yes, but it's a lovely place. I'm sure your members will have a great time there.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they will. And just a couple of other things, if I've got time to mention.
Yeah.
We have got a pottery 2-hour pottery session coming up. That's on the 29th of April. So I always think of Ghost, the film.
It's funny enough, I've never seen the film, but I know that sequence.
Yeah, you just will start singing the songs.
Yeah, so I know the sequence. Yeah.
Where are they doing the pottery?
That's at the Jubilee store.
Jubilee store, just up the river from us here.
So we're looking forward to that. We've done that before.
All right.
So this is second time for that.
So are they going to make pots and things?
They can make pots and ashtrays or whatever they want, I guess.
Vases and bowls.
Can't beat a
fruit
vase.
bowls.
So do they do that and then they get glazed and fired down
as
there?
far as I know, they get to take away what they've made.
Oh wow, that's worth doing.
So that'll be good. And then the good old Donkey Sanctuary.
Yes.
Oh,
so
we've
got an event going there on the 3rd of May, Friday the 3rd of May. So we'll be taking a group out there as well.
That's very friendly for people with additional needs, the Donkey Sanctuary, I always find.
Yes, and you know, I live in Ventnor and I've never been to the Donkey Sanctuary.
Goodness
you
me.
can walk with a donkey.
I'm going to remedy that.
You
should.
Walk with a Shetland pony.
Really?
Yeah, you can take it over jumps and all sorts.
Oh, okay.
Not riding it, but...
No, because that probably wouldn't work.
No, I don't do that.
No.
But I tell you what, the Donkey Sanctuary, it's such a lovely, peaceful place to go.
It is, yes.
They've got a nice little cafe in there as well.
Mm.
So if you fancy, one Saturday afternoon, you think, I don't know what to do, we'll go up there, have a cup of tea and a bun or whatever, and just relax.
And it's free to get in.
Yeah, it's free entry.
And they've got nearly 100 donkeys.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did an outside broadcast there last summer, which was great fun. Had a lot of fun doing that. We actually interviewed a donkey.
We did.
One of our presenters interviewed a donkey. We got the soundtrack of it somewhere.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's definitely worth going up there. So again, your members will love that.
Yes,
I'm sure they will. So as I say, it's a nice little place.
Mm.
Oh, good. I'm glad these things are organised. But you also sort of can help with people who are coming into sight loss areas. You can you're a centre for advice and things like that.
We are, yeah. We can often signpost if we can't help, we can signpost to someone that can. But like I say, we've always got like low vision aids and things like that. But primarily, we're there to provide support and information. Really,
good, brilliant.
Yeah.
I was once doing a little bit of work with another hat on in your kitchen there.
Oh, right.
And I plugged in a microwave oven. It suddenly started shouting at me.
It does, yeah.
Whoa, who is that? Where'd that come from? Set the time. What?
Yeah, you couldn't sort of cook a little sneaky pizza without someone.
Now set the power. What?
Yeah.
Chris is cooking a pizza.
Yeah.
It just frightened the living daylights out of me. Where'd that voice suddenly come from? But you did warn me about the loo there. I don't think it's not in there anymore.
It's there, but it's switched off at the moment. But yeah, we have a talking toilet.
Yeah, you go in there. It advises you on where everything is.
Tells you where everything is. Yes. Yeah.
Very clever if you can't see, but terrifying if you weren't expecting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The toilet's talking to me. Of course it is.
So how can people get hold of you and find out some more, or not you specifically, but the society, and find out some more?
You can either go to our website, iwsb.org.uk. You can give us a call, 52205. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, like your good selves now, and Twitter. So there's all different areas you can get hold of us. We got a quarterly newsletter which we try and get out and about to people, which has got lots of information.
Good.
So we're going to try and get them into doctor surgeries and etc. so you can see what we get up to.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you're there because you are the oldest sight impaired
I don't think
charity.
she's
Not
the
him,
oldest.
the society is but the oldest one on the island. I think
Yes,
it is.
I think we are. Yeah. Well, I'm wearing well. I
And-
was born in
and,
1895.
Long may it continue. Thanks for coming in, Chris.
My pleasure.
Your support matters. We operate thanks to the support of local businesses. If you would like to advertise on Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, contact our team today. Marketing at vectisradio.fm.
everybody. This is Sunshine Radio. I'm Annabelle Locke, and we're in conversation with today. Now, it's very exciting. A charity on the island that I haven't worked with before, and the gentleman that's come to tell you all about Sight for Wight is a gentleman called Chris, and let's be formal about this. Chris Kane.
That's correct.
That's
yes.
correct, is it? And you're going to come and give us some idea of what wonderful work you do for people on the island.
Absolutely, and thank you for inviting me along.
It's a pleasure, because we do this a lot, to give you coverage and also to tell people you're informing patients.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, we're talking to the world.
Absolutely, fantastic.
So there we go. Let me see now. We started that. Now tell me how. I know you started, I know you didn't, because I don't think you're that old, but apparently 1895.
That's correct, yes. Sight for Wight, our legal name is Isle of Wight Society for the Blind, but we have a new CEO. I say new, she's been here 2 years now, and we've had a bit of a facelift, an update, if you like.
Yes.
So we're known as Sight for Wight.
Yes.
That was due to a member survey poll that we did.
Yes.
And most members were in favour of a name change, so hence Sight for Wight. It's a bit snappier.
Yeah, but it also tells you what you are.
It does, yes.
You don't have to guess.
So we've got a new logo, and yes, we were established in 1895.
You don't look that old.
Oh,
it's remarkable. You've
I'll
done
come back. Thank you.
You've done so well. How did you get involved?
Well, I've been working for the charity for nearly 3 years now. Originally, I came in as a senior administrator.
Okay.
But our CEO saw I had other strengths as well as my admin skills. I'm very creative. So hence the new role of marketing, communications and fundraising manager.
That's an awful lot of work.
It's a lot of words as well, yes.
It's a lot of shouting from the rooftops.
It is, yes. A lot of sort of asking people to help us out, which can be tricky at times, but obviously very rewarding too.
I think you have an advantage over us, because there's always going to be somebody on the island whose family think you've done a great job because their auntie or grandma or friend has lost their sight,
yes,
or losing their sight. Therefore, that way you're increasing your membership, as it were.
Yes.
People that know of you.
Yes.
And which means it's a little bit easier. Do people leave you money in their wills?
They do. We rely entirely on fundraising, donations, legacies.
Yes.
So, we don't get any funding from anywhere else. So, always looking for people to help us out.
Yes, no, I understand that. I had a meeting today with the head of the Friends of St Mary's, and they're the same as you. I mean, they've got to raise. They're lucky in as much as that they have a shop and things that they can sell and get some money back. But it's hard work these days.
Yes.
Trying to get money in.
It is.
And so, how do people know about you? I'll say suddenly I realise I've got a problem. Will my GP or contact you or tell me about you, or how does it work?
Not necessarily. I mean, depending on the sight impairment, a GP might refer them. We've got there's the sensory support team who have the contract for people that are registered blind or partially sighted or sort of visually impaired, as we tend to say these days. And through Kate and Carla from the sensory support team, they might suggest that we could help. We help with things like activities, things like that. That's more of our role. And this last year or so, with the help of Miriam, our new CEO, we're doing a lot of different activities for our members, things that you probably wouldn't expect us to do, things like rock climbing, that kind of thing. So cheese tasting, wine tasting.
So will you be sponsored for this sort of thing? Is that how you earn the money?
No, we don't. No, not at all.
You're just waving the flag.
We're just So obviously we're always looking. As I say, I'll probably keep reiterating that we're always looking for people to help us out with funding or donations.
Yes.
But equally, we want to help our visually impaired members as best we can and get them involved in doing everyday things that you or I might do.
No, I read some of your articles, and one thing that I was interested in is that you do sort of prevention of we know things are coming on, but you're talking about prevention. How do you go about that, and how do you know how to help somebody that's in that condition?
What we try to do, we've got 4 charitable objectives. So we've got providing support and information. We've got supporting services and activities. We've got promoting well-being. And then, of course, the 4th objective is promoting avoidable sight loss. So, we're doing schemes like we're selling sunglasses, proper UV sunglasses. So things like that, wear sunglasses so you can avoid damaging your eyes.
Yes,
so
looking straight at the sun.
Exactly.
Yes.
So things like that, we can't sort of cure anything, but we can promote people's well-being.
Do you do seminars or anything like that for people to come and listen to what you have to offer?
We do various activities. We have low vision days, which are very popular, where people from the mainland come along with their magnifying equipment, and it shows off all the technology, and it's come on so far, in these days with what you can do, little devices that will help you read, and of course things like smartphones. If people are familiar with smartphones, there are apps that can read for you and tell you colours and read labels. It's just incredible now.
And also, I do it all the time because I've got an iPhone. I dictate. I don't
exactly,
which is wonderful.
Exactly.
So they can do that. If they do it slowly and carefully, it'll go through properly.
Yes. Yeah.
I know. We've got two. I'm very proud of this. We have two young people that I interviewed 6 or 8 weeks ago who want to join us, and they're both partially sighted.
Right.
And they met on the mainland at a college for partially sighted young people. And they've now come over to the island and living with one of the mums.
Right.
And they now go on the wards to get requests for us with their guide dogs.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, and I've just got to sort out the people that do all our T-shirts. I'm getting not a T-shirt for the dog, but I'm going to get a band that goes around their tummies and along saying Sunshine Radio.
Oh, fantastic.
So aren't we honoured? And I couldn't believe it. And one of the young man, who's absolutely lovely, he's going to be soon trained. He wants to train to do presenting.
Fantastic.
So, isn't that incredible? Because I don't know how he's going to manage that, but he feels he can, and we've got a wonderful trainer here that's taking him on.
It is incredible how people's senses, if they don't have their vision, they can rely on other senses too.
Well, they often increase their other senses, don't they? You often find that. So let's stop talking for a minute. You've got some music here now.
Yes.
Which was the one you said you liked first?
I liked, it's a song called Glory of Love by Peter Cetera.
Oh, that's correct, yes. And why did you pick this?
I picked that because in 1986 I went to California, and I went to the cinema to watch a film called The Karate Kid Part 2.
Yes.
And I loved the soundtrack, so Glory of Love is played on that. And obviously while I enjoyed my holiday, that song, I always remember that song.
It reminds you of it.
It
Absolutely.
does.
So let's have a listen.
Tonight it's very clear as we're both lying here. There's so many things I want to say. I will always love you. I would never leave you alone. Sometimes I just forget, say things I might regret. It breaks my heart to see you cry. I'll be the hero you're dreaming of.
So that reminds you, I've never heard that before.
Really?
Never heard that. It's really rather nice. But I think it's very interesting that you've, fell in love with that piece of music. I heard a guy who had never heard before in my life called Jack Savaretti, because he sang the outgoing song on something we watched on Netflix.
Oh, right.
So I've got the ability on my phone to put it up and it tells you what's
yes,
playing and
yes.
who's singing. And so I found this huge amount of work from this guy, and he's British Maltese, although he looks very British, and his work is fantastic. So like you suddenly find something. So I never heard of him before.
Yes, yeah.
And I've really, really got into his music. And there's a lady as well whose name escapes me. I'm getting old, I hate it. But it'll come to me in a minute. And the same with her. Heard her singing on a Netflix thing, found it, and I've got all her stuff.
Yeah, well, I hadn't heard of Peter Cetera until
never heard of him myself.
he was in Chicago, the group Chicago.
Was he really?
Yeah, so he was sort of lead singer with Chicago.
Well, I could tell you a story about that,
Oh,
but
go on.
I can't do it. No, I can't do it on the radio. I'll tell you later.
I look forward to that.
So I've asked you about, now in 2006 you bought Millbrook House, is it Millbrook House?
Yes.
Now, was that the check? Did that make all the difference in the world for your...
It has. It's good to have a base, because within Millbrook House we've got our audio library. We've got rooms where we can hold our activities, so members come regularly to Millbrook House. Once a fortnight we have something, it used to be called the Owls Group. I don't know quite why it was called the Owls Group, but we call it the Wednesday Social. So once a fortnight we invite speakers in. We've had zookeepers bringing in animals. We have singers, bands, whatever they want to sort of come and listen to, really. So it's really, really good.
And what is the turnout for that like?
The turnout is not so good these days with the Wednesday Social Group, unfortunately.
Is that the weather, do you think?
I think it's a combination, because a lot of our members are older, so it's difficult for people to come to us. We do have a minibus, but bearing in mind we only have it's like a 10-11 seater, so you're restricted as to who you can actually bring in. But one of the things that we are trying to do is actually get out into the community. So instead of holding things at Millbrook House, we'll go out to Freshwater. We'll find a venue. We'll hold an activity. We'll go to Ride. We'll go. We'll go wherever we can, just so that it's easier for people to come out.
Well, there's lots of ways of looking at this. A lot of your people may be older.
Yes.
That means the money might be short.
Yeah.
And because of their condition, they more than likely aren't allowed to drive.
Yes.
So they haven't got any means of getting there unless they've got a relative that can. So that adds to the problem,
It
doesn't
does.
it?
Yes, it does indeed.
Yes.
And obviously, with our minibus driver, it can be quite time consuming, because we tend to just sort of do sort of local pickups.
Do you have your own minibus or do you hire him?
We do have our own minibus.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so so that's usually quite full.
Yes.
Trying to bring people in.
Yeah, but isn't that lovely for them? Because also, I think I've got a real thing about A, homelessness,
Right.
but B, at Christmas, this was the first Christmas that we didn't have guests for years, forever.
Right, okay.
So Christopher and I decided that we'd offer our services at the Salvation Army.
Okay.
Because they do Christmas lunch there for the homeless on Christmas Day.
Right.
One of the best experiences I've ever had. But what made me very sad was there were a lot of people there that were not old or living on the streets, but they lived alone and had nobody else.
Right.
And
yes.
some of them were young people.
Yes.
And that really brought it home to me. I mean, there was a huge amount of people there. But I think what was most gratifying, when we arrived, we weren't late, but we were just a few minutes. It hadn't started. It was early in the morning. It started at 11. We got there at 12. And there were as many helpers turned up on Christmas Day as there were people that we were feeding.
Wow.
There's about 140. I've never seen anything like it.
That's really encouraging,
yeah,
isn't
wasn't it lovely? And now I'm hoping I don't have visitors this year because I want to do it again.
Want to do it again, yeah.
So, like you, the point I was making, a lot of your people that are blind or nearly blind, their lives are pretty restricted. And if they don't have good family around them, just for what you're doing, to be able to take them out and have a bit of fun and meet other people in similar conditions. I mean, you're doing such a wonderful job.
Well, some of our members aren't only members, but we have their trustees and volunteers.
Yes.
And one of our members is completely blind, but he volunteers on reception. You know, it's just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yes.
You know, using sort of software which will read if he's doing an email. You know, it'll read back to him exactly what he's written.
What he's just written.
Yeah, so it's fantastic.
Yes.
And he uses a little special. It's like a little braille machine. It's like and he taps out the information on it. It's fantastic.
Incredible. When you think when your organisation started in 1895, if they could look back now to 2019, they wouldn't believe what you can do now for people.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And as I mentioned earlier, with things like smartphones, and we've got little devices like if you want to know what your baked beans are, what your tomatoes are, there's little devices where you can record and just say baked beans, and it's magnetic, and you just attach it to that can. So people can read, so just push a button and it will say baked beans.
So they can see what they're getting out.
Yeah, so they know what they're about to eat.
Yes.
So it's just simple things like that, but very effective.
How many of your clients, what do you call your people?
We call them members.
Members.
Yes.
How many of them will be alone? You know, there'll be widows or widowers.
They're a high percentage
yes.
and you know, being isolated and having a visual impairment, you know, is just not nice at all. And so we're very pleased that we reach out to them, and they look forward to coming in and having their weekly coffee or chat.
Of course they do.
And
it's really, really, really very special, because I don't think any of us can understand people that live alone. And I mean, I've heard stories when we were doing the Christmas, some of these people haven't spoken to a human being for weeks or so, and I can't, it's so hard. And we've got to advertise this. People have got to realise that there are a lot of people, and in your case they've got an impairment which makes it even worse.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We've got one lady, and I won't say her name, but she's completely blind, but she's still able to cook. I mean, bless her, she baked me a gluten-free Christmas cake, you know. But things like, sometimes if her reader can't read like how much you need for, you know, flour or whatever, so bless her, she's actually gone out into the garden and hailed somebody down to say, can you read this for me, please? You know,
you make me cry.
I know, it's just so difficult, but you know, you've got to take your hat off to the tenacity.
But that's the reward you get.
It is. You know,
you're seeing people that, despite all the odds being against them, they actually can triumph in many cases. Yeah,
incredible. Yeah. We've got some lovely members, I have to say. We've got some cracking members.
I think you're very, very lucky, and I think what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
Now, let's have a look. Your next piece of music, excuse me, tell me which one you fancy now.
I'm going to sort of up the beat a little bit, and this one is by the Scissor Sisters, and it's...
I knew you were going to say that.
I Don't Feel Like Dancing.
Okay, let's see if I can get that to go for you. 2 seconds.
Wake up in the morning with the head your breath, a little soft, you never sway. But I don't feel like dancing, no, so no dancing today. Don't feel like dancing, even if I find that the best to do. Don't feel like dancing, watch the cricket tail when I'm not in the mood. Don't feel like dancing, rather be home with the one in the bed and down with you. Don't feel like dancing, even if I find that the best to do. Don't feel like dancing, watch the cricket tail when I'm not in the mood. Don't feel like dancing, rather be home with the one in the bed and down with you.
Wow, that was really good.
Yeah.
So-
Should we sit back down now after that little dance?
That's right. if only they could see, they'd have a heart attack. So that was fantastic. Why? Why did you choose that?
Again, there's no particular link for that. I heard it on the radio, and I thought, actually, I really like that song.
Yes.
I like a bit of piano as well.
Yes.
And
Do you play?
I don't. I'd love to.
Yes.
Years ago, I did learn to play the organ somewhat.
Do you?
But I always wanted to learn how to play the piano. I think that is such a skill and a talent.
Yes.
But no, I never really. I
You
can play
never-
chopsticks.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
I think most of us could
I
at
think
some
so,
stage.
yeah. But that's about the limit.
So that's a really good piece of music. Do you enjoy music?
I love music. Yes, I do. I like upbeat music. I like sort of sad music, depending on my mood.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, music's great, isn't
Well,
it?
I don't think people realise that we're energy. Every part of us is energy. And I believe that your body knows what it needs.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you're somebody the same as me. Every day you play something that you know you want to hear, not just because it's number one, nothing like that. And I think that replaces what your body is actually asking for.
And would you agree? I think sometimes you can listen to a piece of music and it can sort of make you
Uplift
go all
you.
goose pimply as well, depending on it. And it really
Yes.
it resonates, doesn't
Yes.
it? And it has an effect on you.
But it's interesting. I grabbed you, so you never got into our green room. What I'll show you when we finish.
Okay.
And we've got a big sign, one of the big posters for the Isle of Wight Festival.
Oh.
And there was one of them. I've never heard of this guy, but I always got every time I looked at it, there's a list of people playing, and he's called Passenger.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, I have heard of Passenger.
I'd never heard of him. So I went home one day and, looked him up, and I used Spotify and said, let's hear what this guy's got to offer. I can't stop playing him.
Really?
He's got about 5 albums now. And what's so amazing about him is that he's a poet.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm not a word person. I like the whole feel, like you did with us, as
Yes.
everything about it.
Yeah.
He's made me listen to words, and his work, some of it is breathtaking.
I'm trying to think of one of his songs. I know the name, but I can't think of any of the songs.
Let Go. That was his famous one. That broke. I think it's called Let Go, something like that. But I can't get over that somebody I didn't know is so talented.
Yeah.
And he's got a very sort of young, weird voice, really. When I looked him up, he's a big bloke with a big beard, and I thought, how does that come out of his mouth? But nevertheless, check him out. So, like you, there's reasons why we hear this sort of stuff,
Yes.
and it sticks. And I'm driving my husband mad because I've played every single song he's ever written, and it's on repeat. Nevertheless, so what are your aims now? Every year, you've got to raise more money.
Yeah, obviously events is a big thing for us, organising fundraising events. There is one main fundraising event that we do at Christmas. I don't know whether you got to hear about it. It's our short story writing competition.
Oh, really?
We do that. We've just done our 3rd year.
Really?
And it's really popular.
Do you have children as well as adults?
We do,
or both?
yeah. We have 3 categories: under 12s, 12
Yes.
to 17s, and 18 plus. So 3 categories. We encourage people to write a story. It's usually themed around Christmas because
Yes.
we do it at Christmas. Last year's theme was the magic of Christmas. And partly that was because we managed to get Huxley, magician, to do some of his tricks for us, who was fantastic. And Melodic Choir, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they also sang for us. So we have a huge award ceremony, which we held at Riverside Centre this year.
Yes.
And basically we raised £1,600, from the entries, from
Yes.
also from Melodic Choir, who also
Yes.
did some fundraising for us, raffle. And the big pull is I try to get celebrities to read the winning stories. So last year we had Idana Minghella, who you may have heard of.
I know her.
Yes, isn't she lovely?
Yes, she's a lovely lady.
Mesmerising voice.
Yes,
isn't she?
I know. I've seen her lots of times.
Melvin Hayes, we got to read.
Oh, he's over here, is he?
Yes, he is.
I'm going to have to talk to you.
Yes, yeah, lovely man.
Yes.
When I went to record his story, he showed me around. He's got all these photographs of his life with all these different people.
Fantastic.
Fascinating. We also got Kate Weston from Wave 105, one of the presenters there.
Yes.
And our big pull was Jo Brand. We got Jo Brand.
How did you get her?
You see, it's not what you know.
When she came over to the island for that?
She's actually friends with Idana.
Oh, okay.
They actually used to work together in mental health.
Bizarre.
So,
how nice.
Yeah, so I went over to Brighton and Jo was there.
And you just recorded
their
stories.
I'm with
you. Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, really fun evening. So that's one of our big events.
So you're going to have to tell Sunshine Radio that when it comes up this year.
Absolutely.
And we can advertise you.
Oh, please do.
Yes, do. So don't forget, you've
I
got
won't.
my email.
Yes.
So that's amazing. So let me see now. Another piece of music, because can you believe we're halfway through already?
Oh, my goodness. It's like flying, isn't it?
It is flying. So I don't want to miss out. Tell me what piece of music you want next.
This piece is by Sister Sledge.
Okay.
And it's another upbeat song, and it's We Are Family.
Yes, I think everybody will know that. So let's sit back, listen and enjoy. Well, when I met you, I didn't really think you'd be a noisy sort of man, but you are. And
sometimes.
Yes. I mean, that's another very well-known song. It often worries me because I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
When I'm doing some of my programs, and I always say to patients, if you've got a drip in, please be careful. Because there are some pieces of music that you can't sit still to.
Yeah.
Even if you try,
yeah.
it gets inside.
That's one of them,
And I
isn't it?
do worry about someone sitting there with a drip in their arm. They might get into trouble, or I might get into trouble. So you've obviously... Laura was meant to come today, was unable to come.
Yes.
So we've got 2 pieces of music left for the programme.
Yeah.
That I'm fully aware you won't have a clue.
No, it's going to be a surprise. Yes, so it'll be interesting.
Because they were her choice.
They were.
Good job she didn't have 3 or 4, because we would have been you'd have had to quickly think. But yes, music is so important. And also for our lovely patients, I've got a thing about an interview's got to be interesting.
Yeah.
And informative and fun. But at the same time, I like to break it up with music because if you think about it, a patient in hospital, you could be bored out, there's hours in the day that not a thing happens. But other times it's very busy. Mm. And so at least if you're listening to something and nurse comes and says, come on, I've got to give you a blah, blah, blah now. But if music comes in, they haven't missed too much.
Yes.
And also, I think, a lot of people can't concentrate on the voice for too long. And therefore if you mix it up with music, I've always done this, then it makes it interesting. And also whether they, oh yeah, I like that, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what I'm hoping. I wouldn't like to say I'm an educator, but I'd like to think that we are playing stuff sometimes that people have never heard before.
And I think what's nice about you guys is it's not just the playing of the music, it's actually you go around to the wards and you have a chat with the patients, and I think they enjoy that. When
we train we've got some youngsters, I work with real youngsters at a weekend, and I don't worry about my age, but they go round, and when we first started, I said, you do not realise, and one lady actually said to, and this is what I've told them, I used to be a nurse, so...
Oh, okay.
And I said that, and I've worked in, 15 years in sort of end of life and geriatric work as well, so it's quite interesting. But I said, you don't know, but that person, that little old lady or little old man may not have had a visitor for a week, may not ever have visitors. And you come and show a bit of interest, even if they don't want a piece of music because they can't think.
Yeah.
But if you chat and give them a few minutes of your time, you've made somebody's life that little bit better.
Definitely.
And one day, and this is absolutely true, this was only a few weeks ago, one of the guys who goes round on the wards to get our requests for Sunday Request Show, this lady said to him, you're the first person that's spoken to me for hours.
Wow.
And you think some of these patients that don't have families because they've outgrown families, they have, at least hospital is hopefully a little bit interesting or entertaining. But the nurses haven't got time to chat, which is a shame, but they can't, there's not enough of them. And for someone to come in, and of course now I can't, can you imagine what it was like when they went in with partially sighted with their dogs on the ward? I had to get health and safety to allow me to do it. I was going to say, yeah. And I said, well, if they were visiting their dad, you can't stop them.
Yeah.
So what difference is that? But they didn't argue, they said I was allowed to do it. And the joke was, and I knew it would happen, they got such a reception, they hardly got any requests because everybody wanted to talk and stroke the dogs and talk to them. But that doesn't matter because even that is entertaining, and that's breaking up their day, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the same with us, with our members that come to see us. Yes. They don't have family necessarily,
No. And it's life, and it's somebody that cares.
Yes,
and I don't think that we realise how important that is.
Yeah,
it truly is important. So you obviously get a lot of what you do, but it's a lot of hard work. I'm only so aware. I mean, you've got a three-pronged job.
Yes,
you've got to raise money, you've got to market, you've got to tell the whole world.
Yes,
and it's a lot of hard work.
It is, and I think one of the things that we did last year was we do the usual things like the Chow Show and the Wolverton Manor and all that, but we started doing some slightly off the wall events, for want of a better phrase. So we did Isle of Wight Pride last year, and we were selling out sunglasses.
Oh yes.
And that was such a great exercise. It was a lovely day, but such a buzz, and people were buying our sunglasses, and also getting to know who we are as a charity.
Exactly. You're putting yourself about.
Yes, and the other one we did was Island Con, which unfortunately I think it went bust. But however, it was a really, really good weekend for us. I'm a Doctor Who fan. you see. And I have a full-size Dalek. And
Excuse me, everybody. He looked so normal when I dragged him in from the streets.
Yeah. It's a good job you only got an hour with me, really, isn't it? So I took the Dalek to the event, and basically people were giving donations to have their photo taken with the Dalek.
Oh, lovely.
But it was such a fun event.
Yeah.
And again, we were getting our name out there, and everybody had fun.
And you raised money.
And we raised money.
Yes. I think we're going to have to tag along with you and put our little money box next to you.
Maybe you might have to, yes. Yeah.
So you've got your own Dalek. Well, I've heard it all now.
Yes.
Where do you put him? In the garage?
No, he's in my dining room.
Oh, my godfather.
Yes, so he's very happy in there.
Is he?
Yeah.
You don't have him in the bedroom looking at you when you wake up in the night?
No. He can't get up the stairs. Well, they can get up the stairs now, you see, but
he stays downstairs.
He stays downstairs
yes.
with the cat. Yeah.
Okay, you look so normal.
Yeah,
this is really
sorry about
weird,
that.
isn't it? No, it's come as a bit of a shock. So now another piece of music, and this is one none of us know anything about.
We're in for a shock or a surprise.
Well, we are. I mean, I should have listened to these, shouldn't I? Because I can't be sure. And the one that I'm going to play now, and I've never heard of it, is or the singer. It's Kate Nash. And guess what it's called? Well, you know because you sent it to me. It's called Mouthwash.
This is my face, covered in freckles with the occasional spot and some veins. This is my body, covered in skin, and not all of it you can see. And this is my mind. It goes over and over the same old lies. And this is my brain. It's torturous and elliptical force make me go insane. I use mouthwash. Sometimes I floss. I've got a family and I drink cups of tea. I've got nostalgic pavements. I've got familiar faces. I've got mixed up memories and I've got favourite places. And I'm singing on a Friday night. And I'm singing on a Friday night. And I'm singing on a Friday night. And I hope everything's gonna be alright. And I'm singing on a Friday night. And I hope everything's gonna be alright. This is my face. I've got 1,000 opinions, and half the time I'm trying to explain that this is my body. No matter how you try and disable it, yes, I'll still be here. And this is my mind. And although you try to
There we go. That was Kate Nash and Singing Mouthwash. I mean, I could think of better titles, but that wasn't bad at all. So now you had a colleague that was coming today, but she had to go into a meeting.
Yeah, Laura.
What was her title then?
She's our member services manager.
Okay.
So she gets involved in organising activities for our members.
Does she want another job?
Does she? Well, she's very. We keep her too busy. She's got no time.
Oh, shame. We could do with that here.
But again, she's done some really good activities.
Yes.
We've done things like cheese tasting.
Really?
Wine tasting.
Really?
We've got alpacas, visit to the alpacas coming up in 1st of March, so that's coming up soon. So we were going to do it last Friday, but because of the weather...
how does that work? Will they be allowed to touch them?
They will be allowed to touch them, yeah. With our members, we have to have sighted guides, so we can train volunteers.
Yes.
And can I just give a little plug?
Please
we are
do.
always looking for volunteers. So whether it's like being sighted guide, ambassadors for our events,
Yes.
driving, reading our talking news, the list is endless.
Brilliant.
So we're always looking for volunteers.
So your talking news, where does that go? Onto the internet for your
Well, it's
members?
I have to say, this is very slick. If I could just talk about that very briefly, the talking news is a very slick operation because we have on a Friday, obviously when the county press comes out, we have a couple of volunteers in the morning. They go through the county press. They select articles, so they get cut out.
Yes.
Then we have readers, so they go into the studio. And then it all gets read.
I'm impressed.
Not the whole thing, but
No,
there's
interest.
probably about an hour and a half of news
Really?
from the county press. So once it's recorded, it then gets copied onto memory sticks, and it goes out the same day. And it all goes out articles for the blind, so it doesn't cost our members anything.
No.
So
And it keeps them in touch with what's going on the island.
touch, yeah. So Saturday morning, pretty much, they get the memory stick, plug it in. They get the news.
I'm so impressed.
It's a really, really, really slick and popular thing that we have.
So in all, you're really the people that are partially sighted or blind on the island. If they're lucky enough to be part of your organisation, you're giving them another life.
Yes, yeah. And I think also audio, radio, whatever, talking books, it's just essential for people that are visually impaired.
That's right.
I mean, I enjoy listening to audio books
Yes.
myself. So it's fantastic. It's such an opportunity for members, and also we get such pleasure out of knowing that they're enjoying
Absolutely,
what we do.
of course you do. Now, you're talking books. Do you have an organisation that will give them to you for free, or do you have to pay?
A lot of them we get given for free. So a lot of our stuff is on cassette tape, so which we're phasing out now and just going on to CD. So,
Yes.
but again, very popular. We've got
Yes.
people say, I want something on crime. So and it's run by a volunteer, and she that sends out sort of the appropriate sort of category.
I mean, you're an amazingly organised and large company, call it what you will, but I mean, you do so much. It's very impressive.
We are a small team, but we do a lot.
Yes.
And we do what we can above and beyond. We're always. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
No,
Not
I
at
know
all.
that. So when's the weekend? When is it you have your when you come in and they can have a cup of tea and you put on stuff for them when you collect? You all get together.
Yeah. Well, every Wednesday, 10:30, we
in
have
the morning.
we have a coffee morning at Millbrook House, which is at 137 Carrisbrook Road. So you can come along, and it's anyone. To be honest, anyone's welcome. You don't have to be blind.
So people, obviously, carers that would come with them, and
Yes.
they all can stay and have a
Yeah.
nice time.
Yeah. So they have a chat.
And they have a coffee and a bun.
Yeah, a bit of cake, yeah.
bit
There's
of
not a bit
cake,
of cake. So, and then once a fortnight, as I mentioned earlier, we have our Wednesday social where we will have a speaker or a singer, or say we've had our zookeeper Gary in from the Isle of Wight Zoo.
And bringing animals, or
Yeah,
an animal.
he brought his last visit. He brought in 5 different animals.
Oh, you're joking.
We had a snake. We had I think it was like a hedgehog. It wasn't called a hedgehog, it was called something else, but I can't remember. We had what did we have? Tortoise. We had a chicken.
Yes.
And something else, and I can't remember what it was. But great, because the members could all stroke and just
touch
feel
them
and touch them.
And close to might get some vision.
Yeah.
They've done work now on dogs going into wards.
Right.
And for old people as well, to just cuddle up, and some dogs are trained just to sort of, they can touch them and they lie beside them, and obviously not in the hospital in the beds, but certainly, and they find this is a great way for people to relate, but also to feel comforted and to And I really get that.
Yeah.
And that's something that's being acknowledged now.
Yes, it is.
That animals, and for people at home as well. I know you can't have a dog if you've got to walk it and you can't see. But there are, cats are the same. They give you love. They're
absolutely.
independent.
Yeah.
I really understand it. So how lovely he brought those in. Does he do that often?
Oh, he's coming in again in a couple of weeks. So he's gonna bring some more animals in.
Tell him he can leave the snake behind.
Yeah.
I don't need to see a snake.
The snake was very popular, surprisingly. Yeah.
Look at the time.
Oh,
We've only got 10
Look at
more
that.
minutes. God, where's the time gone? Now, we've got one more piece of music here from Laura, and I hope you hear this, Laura. I will make certain that you do. And this is, I've never heard it again, so let's see what we think of this. It's called Block Party, and it's by I beg your pardon, it's sung by Block Party, and it's This Modern Love. Let's see what this sounds like.
Sadness will jump right and shorty and gorge away. And you told me you wanted to eat up my sadness. Baby, you got to be more discerning. I've never known what's good for me. And baby, you've got to be more demanding. What are you holding out for? What's always? Why so down, absent-minded? Why so scared? This modern come over and kill some time. Throw your arms around me.
There we are. So another piece of music that I've never heard before. I hope you enjoyed that. That was This Modern Love by Block Party. Now we're quickly running to an end. It's gone so fast, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, I've really enjoyed it with you. Thank you.
Good. Now I want you to just sum up and tell us the really important things you want our listeners to hear.
Thank you. I mean, primarily, just think about us. If you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to leave a legacy or a donation, then please, give us a call. Our number is 52205. We do have a website, which is www.iwsb.org.uk. We do a quarterly newsletter, which is, in fact, our February issue has just been published. So you can always pop into Millbrook House and pick up a copy, find out what we do. But we've also got a dress agency in Newport.
Yes, now tell me about this. This sounds good.
This is good. It's for ladies, so we are being somewhat sexist here, I have to say. But it's called Dress for Less.
Yes.
We're pretty much opposite Weatherspoons along St James Street.
Yes.
And it's an agency where you can bring in your sort of new or high-end clothes that you don't want. We will sell said item for you, so you get 50% and we get 50%. So, and it's really popular. So if you're looking for a night out, a party, a cruise, it's really worth popping in. So
I think one of the things that is a huge waste of money, but we've all done it, when you're mother of the bride or the mother of the bridegroom, you pay a complete fortune for an outfit that you're never going to wear again.
Exactly. So it's great. They sell handbags, fascinators.
You're getting posh now. You know what a fascinator is.
I didn't, but I do now. So, and we do a fortnightly video, which is also on our website. So whereby we highlight some of the items that have come in. So in fact, I'm recording tomorrow afternoon, and it goes out on our website on Friday.
Yes.
So with all the latest fashions.
Do you ever go home?
Well, sometimes, but I go straight to bed.
Oh yes, because you're absolutely shattered.
Yeah, have a quick chat with the Dalek and then off to bed.
I wish you brought the Dalek in. We've got a chairlift, so you could have stuck him in there.
Could have done, yeah.
You could have done. Next time you come, you've got to bring the
I'll bear
Dalek.
that in mind.
So it's been a pleasure. I can't believe we've nearly finished. But firstly, I'd like to say just how much thank you on behalf of everybody here on the island that has sight problems. And it's going to happen. We're an ageing population, as we know. There's a lot of us around. And what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
And it is appreciated. And I think sometimes when you're a volunteer and working your socks off, you sometimes wonder, is this working? But for what you've told me today, it's more than working. It's so inventive. You've done so many different ways of entertaining people and raising money.
We tried, but we couldn't do it without the help of the volunteers.
No.
Who do an amazing job.
And they just come and knock on your door, or do they stay with you a while?
No, we drag them in off the street. Yeah.
Say, I like the look of you. In you come.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
No, pretty much. We're lucky. We have volunteer recruitment fairs, and we sort of meet people there. But thank you so much for inviting me today.
Well, it's a pleasure. I mean, and it's lovely for me because I meet a lot of charities doing this job, and there's so much going on in this lovely island, a huge amount. And I have to be honest, I'd never heard of Sight for Wight.
Okay.
And I just congratulate you on what you do.
Thank you.
And continue doing it. And anything you want publicised, my number.
I do indeed. Yes, I'd love to come back.
Oh, you can do it all over again. So it's nearly time for us to go. So I thank you very much, Chris. And everybody, you've heard, we've been talking about Sight for Wight, which is an organisation, a charity, that does so much for people partially sighted and blind. And if you're interested, then look them up and you'll be able to go and knock on their door at Holbrook. What was the name of St James's Road?
It's Millbrook House.
Millbrook House.
That's we're at 137 Carisbrook Road.
Carisbrook Road.
Yeah.
There we go. You've got that. So this is Annabelle Locke from Sunshine Radio. Thank you so much for staying with us and listening. I hope you've been enjoying the music. It's a bit unusual today, but I've been educated. And do take care. And we really do hope that you'll be back home with your family and friends very soon. Goodbye and God bless you.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts. Good evening. Tonight, optimism about opportunities. The visually impaired scientist who's hit the news and who believes the future could be brighter for those who want to follow him into science. And should blind actors always get first go when it comes to playing blind roles?
Al Pacino driving a car in Scent of a Woman was a sighted man driving a car, but you believe he's blind for the film. He's not a blind man driving a Porsche.
And the accidental athlete.
Congratulations, you've been successful. We can confirm that you will have a place to run in the New York City Marathon this November.
More about that later. But first, perhaps it's not that surprising that there are very few people who are visually impaired making a career for themselves in the sciences. The reliance on visual information, which can be slow to be made accessible, the use of visual concepts that can be difficult to convey to people like me who've never been able to see, and the almost inevitable use of graphs and charts that are not only difficult to interpret by touch, but hard to produce. All those things can put people off. But a couple of weeks ago, a story hit the headlines about a potential new way of diagnosing sepsis, a complicated form of infection which is responsible for over 50,000 deaths in the UK annually. This development was widely covered.
It's estimated that around 52,000 people die in this country every year from sepsis, a life-threatening condition triggered by infection.
A low-cost test for an early diagnosis of sepsis that's been developed by researchers at the University of Strathclyde. It could save thousands of lives.
Now, it's called the silent killer. It's estimated that every 4 hours someone in Scotland will die as a result of sepsis.
What wasn't in the news, though, was the fact that the lead researcher, Dr. Damien Corrigan from Strathclyde University, is himself visually impaired. Damien has Marfan's syndrome. That's a condition characterised by very long, slender limbs. Damien is 7 feet tall and it can affect the eyes. It's so rare that we hear about a visually impaired person involved in the forefront of science that we wanted to talk to him. So what had captured Damien Corrigan's interest in science in the first place?
So I attended a school in Worcester, a school for blind and partially sighted children. And my ambition as a youngster was to become a doctor, an actual medical doctor. And around the time I was looking into this, it became apparent that it wasn't really a suitable career for someone with a visual impairment. And I was very interested in science. I'm visually impaired, but I have a good level of sight. And so I decided to take the plunge and apply to university to study science. It was more of a backup for not being able to do medicine.
So how did you decide what to do? How difficult was it to take the path you've taken?
The area where I struggled the most was probably as an undergraduate. I was studying cell biology, which is quite a practical subject. And I probably have to be honest and say that, this was 20 years ago now, so things have really moved on. But in those days, you were given a handbook that was in one size of print and you were just sort of left to get on with it. But then once I was able to find a PhD, so I was able to find a PhD project in the university that would take me, I was then able to work at my own pace and to adjust my working environment so that I could work quite happily in it.
So in terms of actually getting a job and getting research opportunities, what effect did your loss of vision, what effect did that have?
I would say that actually I had one spell after being an undergrad and then looking to get a PhD where I started to apply, and I did put on my CV that I was visually impaired. And again, this was a long time ago, but I didn't get many interviews, and I only started to get interviews once I removed that from my CV. And sort of again in earlier years, as I was establishing myself, I sort of kept quiet about it.
Are there any compensations in science and in the fields that you've gone into? Are there any senses in which you perhaps have learned to do things that are useful?
Well, I think, with my field, I'd say one thing is that we work with very small sensors that are made in a clean room, and they're in fact so small that no one can see them. And the sort of sensors we make, and we attach DNA to a very small surface. It's really actually in your imagination, and when people talk about, say, improving a sensor, it is a very conceptual thing. You think, well, if we change this DNA molecule for this DNA molecule, or we use something that's a different length to another molecule, it's really sort of imaginative. So then you can go to the lab and test those ideas. But the sort of lab work I do isn't I wouldn't say is as challenging as others. I would say that being an organic chemist and working with glass flasks and high temperatures and things like that, that is quite a challenge.
Now, I'm delighted that you're talking to us, but in the past, you have kept your visual impairment out of the public eye. I mean, why did you feel that was necessary?
I think science is ultimately a competitive endeavour, and I sort of wanted to keep that perhaps to myself for the reasons that, say, perhaps writing a grant or something, or a paper, it might sort of seem strangely coming from a visually impaired scientist, but I'd say that as I've established myself and become aware that there aren't many visually impaired people in science, it's probably quite important to speak up for not just visually impaired people, but disabled people trying to work in the STEM subjects. So STEM is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So for younger visually impaired people perhaps listening to this and thinking science is something I would like to do, what do you think are perhaps the best areas where this opening up is likely to benefit visually impaired people? Science labs are now producing vast amounts of data, more than they really know how to handle. So people who are interested in computing or mathematically orientated, who might be visually impaired, who might not feel comfortable doing lab work, there are opportunities in bioinformatics where people will be handling large data sets, perhaps looking at the sequencing of DNA or the structures of proteins and molecules, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And these are technologies that could potentially revolutionise the way we live. Another area, actually, which might be interesting to people is 3D printing. And 3D printing allows you to print almost any structure you want. And there are new materials being used all the time in 3D printing. So initially it was polymers and plastics, and now people are looking at new printing inks such as ceramics. And this leads to a very tactile product that you can print. So again, in a computer program, you can design an object and then the printer can print that out, and you can then use that object in the lab. So we often 3D print any holders that we might need, or chips or objects that we want to test. And so there are lots of opportunities, I think, for people if they're able to explore them. Dr. Damien Corrigan. And there's another select band of visually impaired professionals who reckon that with a bit more effort from some of their colleagues, their opportunities for work could be greatly enhanced. When blindness is portrayed in film, theatre or on television, shouldn't that part be given, wherever possible, to actors who are themselves blind or partially sighted? It's an argument which has been going on ever since the disability movement began to campaign for rights. But is it a rights issue? Is it about people who'd play the parts best, or just about providing opportunities? And what about the rights of directors in a commercial world where films and plays have to make money? Stand-up comedian Chris McCausland wrote an article in response to the controversy surrounding non-disabled actor Bryan Cranston taking the role of a disabled character in his new film The Upside. Well, we brought Chris together with visually impaired actor Chloe Clark, who co-founded disability-led theatre company Elbow Room. We first invited Chris to set out his stall.
Bryan Cranston, he's got 40 years experience. He's got the household name of his success in Breaking Bad. He playing this part of a disabled man in a wheelchair is a far greater appeal to audiences and producers and the people making the film, the people going to watch the film, than somebody who might be an actor in a wheelchair that might have maybe found 3 different opportunities in the last 10 years and nobody knows who they are.
So, Chloe, what's your reaction to this? That it just isn't, it might be a lovely idea, but it isn't practical in the real world?
So I don't think the argument is necessarily that a disabled role should go to any disabled person, and it should be absolutely irrespective of standard or range or experience or capability in terms of acting. But what we want to see is more opportunities go to disabled actors, because there are, in actual fact, a lot of disabled actors out there who are very talented, who are trained, who do have a wealth of experience and are capable of playing the character first and foremost, but also happen to have the same impairment as the character, therefore can truthfully and authentically represent that group of people.
Chris McCausland, you have suggested that perhaps blind people can't necessarily play these parts as well, not just because they haven't had the experience, but I think you've suggested that there may be something simply about being blind that may not make it possible for you to play the part as well as a sighted person.
The logistics of moving around a set and playing, for example, I mean, if you think, just take yourself back to the 80s and see no evil, hear no evil. If you take the part of Richard Pryor, who was a blind man in that film, there were so many action scenes and comedy setups in that film that required a sighted actor to pretend to be blind, otherwise they would have been logistically not really possible for that actor to do. Al Pacino driving a car in Scent of a Woman was a sighted man driving a car, but you believe he's blind for the film. He's not a blind man driving a Porsche.
Chloe Clark?
I think there are a lot of actors out there who don't do their own stunts, and there's CGI and all sorts of other things that allow, we have a TV show on the BBC called Strike, and that features a non-disabled guy, and they've CGI'd a prosthetic leg in. And, there are all sorts of different things that can be done to aid all sorts of scenes that you were saying aren't possible, that could be possible with a bit more creative thinking, or you alter those scenes slightly to adapt them to somebody's access requirements, or, a lot of what you're saying about manoeuvring around a set and things like that, those are all barriers that are enforced by non-disabled people. And if we address those barriers rather than just simply saying, oh, well, we shouldn't play those roles then, I think that's more important and more progressive than just going, well, let's be realistic about this. At the end of the day, there are just things we can't do.
But would you say that actually a blind actor would be, by definition, more authentic in that role?
The way it stands, realistically, at the end of the day, you cast for a blind role, and the majority of casting directors, their go-to thing isn't to go, right then, we need to find visually impaired actors for that role first and foremost, and if none of those guys fit the role adequately, then we'll cast wider. But they don't think that way. But
you do need names, you need faces that are recognised. That's inevitable, isn't it? That has got to be a director's main priority.
I totally understand the sort of financial and business viability argument. But, for example, I think it is an actor's responsibility to recognise that they have a privilege and a platform that they could potentially relinquish in order for our stories to be told more truthfully and our voices to be heard. There are a lot of stories being told about us, but not by us.
It is true, Chris, that blind actors will only be able to gain that experience you say they lack if they're given those opportunities. Isn't it the responsibility of the profession as a whole to give them those chances?
Yeah, and it's the responsibility of writers, casting agents, producers to all collectively consider. I mean, for example, if there is a role where disability doesn't affect the story in the slightest, maybe when they're auditioning for that role in a TV show, they could say this role is open to all races and all disabilities, because then it would welcome people to come and audition for that role, and it wouldn't affect the story. That, as I say, the teacher in the TV show could be in a wheelchair, the lawyer could be blind.
Isn't the real problem actually a lack of suitable parts to play, which brings you back to a lack of writers actually creating these kind of roles? Chloe?
Yes, our stories aren't authentic because we absolutely desperately need more disabled writers, more disabled directors, more disabled producers and casting directors to infiltrate all levels of the entertainment industry so that our stories are told. But as Chris says exactly, we need a lot more incidental casting. The story doesn't need to revolve around disability. You could, if you're going to truthfully represent society in all its diversity, you need to be casting disabled actors in any role, and it could be anything. It's irrespective of disability.
It seems as if you may have reached a point of agreement here, but a final word on that, Chris?
I agree. When people think we're going to do something about disability, it becomes the be-all and end-all, the crux of the whole story. And we need it to be that, oh, look, there's a disabled bloke and it hasn't been mentioned. That's what we need to get to, where a certain percentage of people on the TV have got a disability of some note, really, without it being the be-all and end-all of it.
Chris McCausland and Chloe Clark. Your views welcome, of course. And now just a few news headlines for you, and I've been joined by Lee Kumatat.
First, Pete, you may well have heard today an announcement from the Department for Work and Pensions that people over 65 who are receiving PIPs or personal independence payments, as we all know and love them, will no longer have to present themselves for periodic reassessments of their circumstances. So what will this mean to visually impaired people, an increasing number of whom receive PIPs? Well, at the moment, not as much as you might think is the answer. Only people who were under 65 in April 2013 have been transferred from the previous benefit, Disability Living Allowance, onto PIPs, although, of course, as time goes on, an increasing number of those won't have repeated reassessments when they pass their 65th birthday. People who have lost sight and qualified for benefits after 65 will be receiving something else, attendance allowance. The debate about whether people who have a permanent eye condition, which is unlikely to change, should keep needing to be reassessed, has not yet been settled.
And a television programme you might like to catch. It's called Travelling Blind. It features Amar Latif. Now, Amar founded Travel Eyes. That's a company which offers a range of holidays to blind people who want travel with the help of sighted companions. Amar travels across Turkey for the programme with comedian Sarah Pascoe, demonstrating how there's more to travel than gazing at the sights. Travelling Blind, it's called. It's on BBC Two at 8 this coming Thursday evening.
And it's amazing what researching for this programme can lead to. A few weeks ago, after a listener complained that guide runners assisting blind entrants in the London Marathon weren't getting enough recognition, I commissioned one of our reporters, Dave Williams, to find out what other marathons around the world were doing. Well, how was I supposed to know?
In New York, for example, they have a very famous New York City Marathon every November. So I popped onto their website and wanted to find out what the guide runner policy was there. And I found the application form. Well, I have to declare a bit of an interest. I've started running relatively recently. I mean, you know, you go back to August and I couldn't run a bath. And I started filling in the form. I don't really know what possessed me. It was a bit late at night. I might have been in the pub, and I thought, is the process for applying for a marathon accessible? You know, and it is, and I filled this in, and you go into a ballot, and then on Friday morning, I woke up to an email saying, "Congratulations, you've been successful. We can confirm that you will have a place to run in the New York City Marathon this November." So I've got to figure out how I run 26 miles in the next 8 months.
Have you ever run a marathon before?
No, I haven't even run half a marathon. I can run about 10 miles, and I'm quite proud of that. I showed this email to my guide runner and I said, "Well, what do we do?" And she wrote back and said, "Well, I'm in if you are." So no pressure then.
So is she going to get a medal and a credit?
Well, the official position at the moment is that she won't, but I'm hoping the fact that London have changed policy on this, that New York might at least look at it, and I have written to them. I've yet to get a reply, and obviously I will keep everybody posted.
Well, we'll be watching Dave's progress with some trepidation. Do let us know what you think about anything you've heard in the programme. You can call in touch directly and leave a voice message for us. The number to do that is 0161 836 1338. And if you'd like us to get back to you, do please leave us a number. We'll do our best. You can still email in touch at bbc.co.uk or click on Contact Us on our website. That's www.bbc.co.uk/in touch, from where you can also download tonight's and previous editions of the programme. That's it from me, Peter Wight, producer and newscaster Lee Kumatat, and the team. Goodbye.
Scaffolding news, Friday the 8th of March. Cows area. Current scaffolds, 93 High Street Cows. The scaffold up within hoarding. The White Hart Inn, Dover Road, East Cows. Public conveniences, the Parade, Cows. Current hoardings, 93 High Street Cows. Public conveniences, the Parade, Cows. Current skips, 7 Magdalen Crescent, Cows, and 42 Birmingham Road, Cows. Pending skips, 19 Mill Hill Road cows and 66 Granville Road cows.
In the Newport area, current scaffolds are the Wheatsheaf Hotel, St Thomas's Square, Newport; Claire's Accessories, 41 High Street, Newport; Barnett's, 73 High Street, Newport; 15 Cypress Road, Newport. Current skips are Fairmount Drive, Newport, and that's in association with Stapler's Works.
The Ryde area, current scaffolds, Gardener's Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens; 91 to 92 High Street, Ryde; Coburg's Nightclub, Union Street, Ryde; Ellesmere Court, 76 George Street, Ryde. Current skips, Carita, Stein Road, Seaview; 4 Sherborne Avenue, Ryde. Building Materials and Hoarding, Car Park, Brooks Road, Bembridge. Pending Crane, road connecting Nettleston Hill and Seaview Lane, Seaview.
The Sandown and Shanklin area, current scaffolds, the Toymaster, 103 High Street, Sandown; Wilmer Dorkin and Vermaiper Cottages, Church Street, Newchurch; Trouville Hotel, 10 to 16 Esplanade, Sandown; the Ocean Hotel Townhouses, High Street, Sandown; Serenity, 83A High Street, Sandown; 5 Station Road, Sandown; 5 Palmerston Road, Shanklin; 101 High Street, Shanklin. Pending scaffolds, 2 Albion Road, Sandown; 101 High Street, Shanklin; Bar 64, 64 High Street, Shanklin. Current skips, St Peter's, Hill Street, Sandown; 9 Pier Road, Sandown. Current hoardings, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown; Junction of St Boniface Road and Arthur's Hill, Shanklin.
Ventnor area, current scaffolds, corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor; 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor. The Blenheim, 9 High Street, Ventnor. Pending scaffolds, Flat 1, 1 Marlborough Road, Ventnor. Current skips, Seascape, St Catherine's Road, Knighton.
West Wight area, current scaffolds, Old School, Fine Lane, Shorewell; Vector's House, Ward Road, Totland; St James's Church, St James's Street, Yarmouth. Current hoarding, skip and building materials, end of Withyfields, cul-de-sac, Shalfleet. Vehicle crossings under construction, New Wolverton Farm, Doctors Lane, Shorewell; 14 Paddock Close, God's Hill; 18 Moorview, God's Hill; 10 Meadows Road, Ryde; Carisbrook College Entrance, Mountbatten Drive, Newport; 53 Wyatt's Lane, Northwood; 95 Ratcliffe Avenue, Ryde; 9 Alfred Road, Lake; 133 West Hill Road, Ryde; 31 Garfield Road, Shanklin; 2 Fir Tree Close, Shanklin; 63 Edinburgh Road, Freshwater.